We're live, pal. Are we live? Are we live? Looks like we're live. Oh my goodness. Right on time. Got off early just to catch the stream. Welcome in, Killer B. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, perfect timing. Hopefully everything sounds good. Hopefully I sound good. Hopefully the audio for the score sounds good because I have the Jedi Fallen Order score going in the background. I was messing around with the settings a little bit, um, just to make sure because it looked like we had some duplicate settings going on in OBS. So hopefully that's all good now. Everything sounds good. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so yeah, here we are. I was actually just before starting. I was listening to Assaulting the City. Um, I guess an early spoiler, one of my favorite tracks, especially in the first half of the season. Um, yeah, Selling the City is a extremely good one. Um, there we go. Um, but uh, but yeah, so let's give it a second here, make sure everything is up to speed here, and everything looks good. Oh goodness, there we go. Um, But yeah, like I said, I was kind of messing with the settings here just before starting. Couple of audio duplicates going on, so I muted those, and hopefully everything sounds good, looks good, acts good, all that. Hope I have most of the good tracks here. These are all very well placed, I think. Had to go back into like 10 over the week. Yeah, I don't blame you. There are some incredible tracks here, and I think fitting enough, like not every single track here will be in the A, S, and Mako tier, right? Like there might be a few that end up in B and possibly even C. Um, but I think it's a very healthy mix with a lot that'll definitely end up in in S and A for sure. I mean, how can you not for this season? Um, Yeah, I think I will say that there might be one missing that I was thinking, oh man, I would love to rank this one, and it was Align the Symbols. With that being such a great homage piece to Raiders of the Lost Ark, um, when Indy goes into the map room of the Ark of the Covenant, I'd say that'd probably be the only one here from this lineup that might be missing. But beyond that, this list is this has everything. Um, Yeah, no, it's a great one. Yeah, every time I go back and listen to it, I'm like, I remember hearing it the first time, thinking, "Oh my gosh, is this just the Ark of the Covenant theme?" And sure enough, yeah, because that episode Entombed was such a an Indiana Jones reference episode. So, yeah, um, but yeah, so I kind of went over it at the beginning of the last soundtrack stream where I kind of broke down what each of these tiers mean, and I can't exactly remember if I really followed my own criteria for that. But I'll just kind of lay out a base sort of thing of what I'd like to do with each of these tiers. So obviously we have the Mako tier, which you know what that purpose is. Um, we have the S tier, which are the tracks that really just go so above and beyond doing what they need to for the scene, or just the setting, the characters, whatever it may be. It's a track, or it's a placement for tracks that just have no business being as unbelievably good as they are. Um, then we have the A tier, which is pretty much just the 50% to S tier, where it's like this track does some really incredible things that really push the boundaries of what an average track would sound like for this show. Um, and then you have B, which does pretty much everything that it needs to do for the track. It doesn't do anything that really pushes beyond what it needs to. It perfectly fits the scene that it's in, and yeah, it's just a really good fit. Um, then for C, we have tracks that might fall just a little bit short of representing what they're meant to be there for, right? Like a track that maybe could have used a little more of something else to really help hone in on what the characters were going through or what the scene was conveying. Um, so yeah, so that's sort of what our C tier is, and then our D is pretty much opposite of S, where it's the track just doesn't really do anything to fit in with the scene or anything like that. But kind of an early spoiler, I don't think anything is going to go in D tier. There might be one track that ends up in C. I was thinking about it yesterday. Um, but yeah, for the most part, we're going to be sort of in this field, which is not a flaw at all. That just goes to show how incredible the Kiners are. Um, but I mean, you never know. You never know where Mako's theme will end up. Real quick, I actually want to go ahead and open up my notes here because I did take notes um, when I was listening to all the tracks here in this list. Um, Yesterday, I was writing down a bunch of stuff because sometimes I forget um, the little specifics of a track. So I definitely want to make sure I get all my thoughts out there. Um, and yeah, okay, there we go. There's my notes, and we can probably go ahead and get this stuff going. Got notes and everything. Yeah, I tried last time. I did write just some notes last time, but I wasn't really sticking to them. And then after the stream, when I went back and I reread those notes, I was like, oh man, I wish I would have said this. Because I think we were talking about in the comments, I think it was that stream VOD, with season 1 with Leaving Camino, or one of the tracks in the last episode, how it kind of sounded like an alarm, right? There was like the horns in the background. They were very like subdued in the background. It very much sounded like a horn or not horn, an alarm going off, or even like a whale call or something like that. So yeah, because that was something that I wrote down. I was like, oh man, I wish I would have mentioned that as I was going on. Yeah, so I wrote down notes and I'll try to go off of them as much as I can here. Um, so yeah, let's get started with the first track of season 2, and it is Crab's Attack. I'm just gonna go hot out the gate with this one. This is an S tier track for me. This is a track that I always come back to. A track that I just love listening to at any point in the day. There's no rhyme or reason. I just always come back to this track, and I think it's such an incredible introduction. I love the beginning, how it just sounds very peaceful and quiet, and it reminds me of, I don't know, like in SpongeBob, where in the beginning and then the narrator is like, ah, Bikini Bottom, it kind of reminds me of that, where it's sort of that like peaceful open, and then there's like a few different shots of the beach and the sort of like trees and stuff in the background. And then immediately cuts into the action with the squad running away and Echo just face planting in the water. It's an incredible start. Um, I love how it starts out with that like very intense like pursuit kind of track that's going on as they're running away from the crabs, and then you go back to the Marauder and it's Omega there, and it plays such a beautiful version of her theme. Um, and then her and Tech have their discussion about her studies, and then it goes right back to the chaotic nature where the tempo is just flying all over the place. Um, it just fits it so well, and I think what really works for the Echo tripping in the water as the music kicks in. Yeah, it's so good. It's so fitting for what this sort of situation is, right? Um, and we only have going back to in the combat sounds a lot like Pabu. Yeah, you're right, right? Because it's sort of that like things aren't really as tumultuous as they would go on to be, right? There's a lot more of the peace and quiet sort of feeling to it. Um, but yeah, so something that I really pick up on for this track in particular, and a few other ones as well, and I'll definitely bring those up once we get to them. Um, this track, again, like the S tier, right? It has no business being as incredible as it is. And for this sort of setting of where we are, this is just another mission for the batch, right? Like this isn't like a big deal. Like this isn't like raiding the Tarkin's facility on Ariadne, right? Like this is just a retrieval mission of a crate from some wild crabs, the giant pot of crabs, right? Like this is just an absurdly good track for such a like I don't want to say mediocre mission because it's a great opening, but like in the grand scheme of the season, it definitely falls on the lower end of their objectives in the past. So this just like puts it well above and beyond and adds so much to the scene. Um, but yeah, and just as the track goes on, sort of interweaving the batches and Omega's theme when Omega starts, going into action. She's using her bow, using some good little motifs of hers there, along with the batches when they're doing stuff. I love the like. It kind of sounds like bongo drums as it's going on when it's sort of fitting in with the rest of the instruments with the strings and all that. Feels very unique for this setting. I love it when they pull unique instruments to put into these tracks. Um, and then yeah, towards the end of the track, well, it's definitely the entire season. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, but I think it's just like uh, and even to this point where I'll get to right now is once the batch they latch the crate onto the hook and they start going up, their theme is going insanely hard. It is just blasting, and listening to these with headphones, it's like, oh my gosh, it feels like my headphones are about to explode listening to this. And I remember hearing that when I watched the episode for the first time. It was like, wow, this is just complete like bumping up all the audio for the batch's theme here, um, and rightfully so. Yeah, it's such a good opening, and yeah, like I said, a track that I always come back to. It's such a refreshing track to listen to because of again that healthy balance of chaotic, and then there's a little bit of peacefulness in there with Omega side of things. Um, and then it just feels so rushed as it goes on, right? Where the crabs are attacking the Marauder, they're attacking Omega, they're attacking the others. Yeah, cinematic shot of them going up the pulley thing. Yeah, right, where they're all sort of in a good position when they're shooting, and then they reach the top. It's just unbelievably good. Yeah, Crabs Attack definitely probably a top 5 track for me. By the end of this, that might change, judging on how I go about things. But yeah, right now is absolutely a top of S for sure. Um, all right, and then we proceed further into the episode when they're on Sereno with Container Ship. Actually, with these 2 tracks, I had a lot of trouble finding out where exactly these tracks were happening. More specifically with Search and Retrieval, because I remember Tech in that shop. I mean, I'll talk about that later. Container Ship when they board, when the ship starts to take off, and then I believe this is around the time when they get compromised, or when Hunter is like, "All right, we're done waiting. Let's do this," and so then they leap into action. Um, and then the ship starts taking off, and Hunter's trying to hold on to it as it's gaining height. Um, yeah, a very very good track. Um, let's see, and yeah, it's definitely in the early going of it. It definitely fits that infiltration type vibe that it has, and kind of what it was doing beforehand. With some of the other tracks before, like Move In or whatever, right? Or Stealth Infiltration or whatever the names of the tracks were. Definitely really fits that same vibe for sort of that Clone Wars or Bad Batch style of infiltration. Um, and then and yeah, I love obviously weaving in the Batches theme into a track is always a good thing, and then some with the when the ship starts to take off, and there's a little bit of the Batches theme in there, and I think in a little bit more of a panicky way is the situation where they're starting to be separated. Um, yeah, I think Container Ship is a very solid track, and I think I could probably go ahead and just throw it into B tier for right now. Um, Again, it's a really good track. It fits what it does. It fits perfectly with the scene of the situation that's happening. Um, doesn't do anything too absolutely incredible to really push the boundaries. It does pretty much exactly what it needs to do. Um, so yeah, very very solid track. Um, Okay, yeah, so like I was saying with search and retrieval, I was having a tough time finding what scene this belonged to because for some of these tracks, others I can just pluck the memory of when exactly these happen. For most of these, I'd say. Pretty much all of them. Um, yeah. Yeah, I'd say pretty much for all these tracks, I could just pluck the memory of when these happened, but search and retrieval was probably the one that I had trouble with. Um, where I was thinking, okay, I'm picturing Tech here, but I can't exactly figure out what he's doing. And it's right before, or I think it's about 2/3 of the way through the track, maybe, or maybe about halfway. Um, it's when Tech is going after Omega and Echo, and he's got his broken leg, and it's right before he makes himself known to the clones. And I was thinking, okay, is it when he's actually fighting the clones? But no, it's kind of around that time when he's right about to engage them. Which may have been a bit misleading. No, that's totally fine. No, it really it gives the idea that this is where the the sort of section that belongs in right with the beginning. Um, but yeah, so yeah, it kind of goes in a few different places, right? Where it's Hunter and Wrecker attacking Wilco, I believe, is sort of what's happening in the early bits of the track, and then later on again with Tech fighting the clones. I love that bit there in that track where Tech is about to make his move. It almost felt like a I don't know. It kind of felt like something that belonged maybe in a different scene. It felt like maybe there was like a sacrifice that was about to happen or something. It just got very like orchestral there for a second. Um, yeah, and then it sort of rounds out with Tech, I believe, defeating the troopers. Um, but yeah, no, I really like this track as well. I think Search and Retrieval's a pretty solid one. Um, I think maybe for that section alone, maybe bump it up to A, but hmm. Yeah, I think I'll put it in A for right now. I just remember listening back to it, just thinking like, wow, okay, this definitely adds a little bit more. Um, Hyperion, welcome in. There's one track not on this list I want to shout out, Worth More Than Jewels. Yes, right. Which is basically considered to be Wilco's theme. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, I wish I could pull it from memory from right now, but I really like sort of with the name of the track being the Worth More Than Jewels piece when oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? Oh no. Oh no, what's the guy's name? The Serenian guy. Ah, dang it. It wasn't Sumar. That's the guy from Rebels. Um I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, when he's talking with Omega and he's showing her the the thing I can't even think of the Romar. That's what it is. Thank you. Yeah, it was very close, very close. Thank you, baddest. Um, but but yeah, when he's talking with Omega and he's showing her the toy, not like the kaleidoscope. That's not what it is, right? Um, but yeah, that little thing when she looks into it, it's very peaceful track there in that brief moment that they have of a break. Um, but yeah, no, Worth More Than Jewels, very good. I'd probably put that also in A. Um, but yeah, no, I think Search and Retrieval's a very solid track. Um, Kuat Desix, I really love the opening of this. Um, I remember watching the episode for the first time and thinking that a lot of the stuff that happens in this track was all happening in the world. Like it has those kind of alarm, more sort of like with the end of season one, right, where it's kind of those alarm sounds that almost makes it feel diegetic, but it's actually just a piece of the track that just contributes to that ambience of the world. Um, I love the that opening with the alarm sort of sounds going on. Um, and then there's these occasional or yeah pretty much occasional uh I guess it's sort of like heavy strings coming in, right, that really signify like the empire coming in. um and yeah, I love how yeah it's just the whole time with the civilians running away, and it's not like it's any kind of devastatingly tragic track where oh the empire's here. It's just an ominous, very foreboding type thing. Um, and the rattling snare drum comes in as the droids march in. Yes, exactly right. Like in actual battle formation, I was kind of thinking as well. It kind of sounded like the opening or like the title reveal for every episode, where it does those drums as sort of like a militaristic sort of marching. It almost kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Maybe they used those same snares for that. Um, but uh, but yeah, very very solid track here. Um, and again, another one that doesn't really push the boundaries in any incredible way. It does what it's got to do. It signifies everything. Um, it perfectly relates everything that's going on in the environment. Again, I love the alarm sort of sounds going on in the early going. When the actual alarms are going off in the on Desix, um, to signify, hey, come back to the city, go into your homes, lock your doors. Um, so yeah, I think Kua Desix is a very solid one. I really really like it, and yeah, I think it's a great fit for the scene that it's in. I think it's a solid B. Um, okay, assaulting the city, man. I have a lot of bias for this track because it's one I always love, just kind of like Crab's Attack. I always love coming back to this one at any point. Um, it's a really long track, and it obviously, with it being a continuous representation of the scene, it kind of has to extend a little bit when there's that downtime, after the shuttle crashes and the droids get sent in to see what's going on. Um, and then when Cody and Crosshair are sort of examining the situation. Um, but I love the early bits with the shuttle coming in. It sort of gives off that same sort of vibe that Kua Desix does. Um, yeah. 5 minute track is so worth to listen to the end. Yeah, I only remember the Crosshair sniping the tank part. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that build up is such an incredible build up. But I think the one part that really sticks out to me is the end with that sort of twisted version of the clone theme playing. It's for such a small moment, or it's such a small like usage that it's there. Um, and it's like, oh man, I wish there was more because I'm sure if they did a full fledged like clone theme with that sort of tone, that sort of sinister intent lying underneath, it would have been such a great track. But that little bit that we got there when Cody and the clones are rushing up the bridge towards the wall, and then they grapple up, incredible stuff. It really really fits. Um, yeah. But yeah, the early bits when the shuttles come in, again, it kind of harkens back to Kua Desix just a little bit with that impending doom, right? Where there's the occasional drums coming in. Um, and then yeah, with that build up as as the AAT is starting to fire at the shuttle, and then eventually crashes. And then, like I said, there's that little bit of downtime there, before things start picking back up again, where again there's Crosshair trying to get the attention of the tank, trying to get it directly lined up with his shot. Um, yeah, I really love assaulting the city. I have lots of bias towards it because I always come back to it. I don't know if I can actually justify it being an S tier. I feel like if it was just me going like off of um how I go about feeling about these themes, it would probably be S. But I think I can put it in A, top of A, definitely above search and retrieval, realistically for right now. I might put it up in S later. Um, but when you look at some of these other S's that we will be having for sure, I think definitely they kind of eclipse assaulting the city. Try to be objective and unbiased. Yeah, it is. I know. That's the nature of the tier list. Is it's all subjective. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to be fair to it, right? Like, yeah, obviously, if this was just like me going in, like, oh, I love this track, I love this track, I love this track, put them all in S. But no, I want to space it out a little bit, be a little bit fair. Again, that's not to hold anything against that downtime that the theme has, again, in between those two big moments. Um, but yeah, I feel like that probably puts it in A. Um, and there's even a bit for another track that is a little ways away, but another track that kind of does a similar thing, where there's a little bit of downtime in there where it might, or yeah, I can't remember if it was a little bit of downtime or there's just a random section in there that might hold it back just a little bit. But we'll get to that. Okay, Droidicas and Commandos. I love it how this is pretty much just two tracks put together that really fit the name. Um, very fast paced sort of tempo going on, and where the track before with assaulting the city, it feels very grand, and again, like I said, very foreboding with the Empire coming in. Um, I don't know. There's something about this track that almost feels a bit claustrophobic in a way, and it fits very well. Connor's at his best when it's all just scene, no dialogue. You're absolutely right. Um, yeah, downtime is one of the characters. Yeah, exactly right. Um, yeah, the track, the Droidekas bit feels pretty claustrophobic for some reason. That's sort of the vibe that I get from it. Because again, the tempo is just going off the charts once the Droidekas come in. Um, and again, it's very like tight corridors, and this just fits so well with that tight corridor, close quarters combat type situation that the clones are in. Um, and just sort of the not randomness, but the sort of sporadic nature of the battle, where Crosshair, Cody, and Nova are like covering each other's backs, and like they're all shooting up, down, left, right, and Nova's tossing a grenade up above. It just fits that sequence so well. Um, and then it does that crosshair synthetic boom, as I call it. I write that a lot in my notes. Is the synthetic boom that crosshair gets, his little, that. Um, so yeah, it does that one time when crosshair, when Nova hits the sticky thermal detonator and crosshair snipes the droid into the shield. It does his little synthetic boom. Yeah, I love the crosshair boom. Um, but yeah, I love that bit. And then, so I wanted to point this out because this might not mean anything to anyone, but when the Droideka segment ends and when the team go through the door into that sort of like courtyard area, there's a sound that happens. And every time I watch the episode or listen to this track, I always think of in Batman Arkham Origins, whenever you're playing as Batman and you level up, it does this thing where there's this sound that plays that kind of sounds like just a one, like it's like a 2 second long, like siren, or not a siren, but it's like a wave sort of sound, right? And it feels like this exact sound plays in that transition phase between the Droideka side and the Commando side. I always think of that Arkham Origins sound effect when you level up, because yeah, it sounds almost identical. I highly doubt that that was the inspiration. But that's always the vibe that I get from it. Um, but um, but yeah, so then they transition into the Commando side of things, and things just get so much more fast paced. Um, Very fitting of the Commando droids, kind of like before with the Kua Desix bit, where it sounds like the droids marching, right? It kind of does a similar thing with the Commando droids, where it's them stepping and the beat is in sync with their steps. And that beat actually, that sort of section of the track there, reminds me a lot of what they used for the trailer, for one of the trailers for season 2. I can't remember exactly which one it was. Um, but I remember thinking like, oh wow, okay, this is that piece from the trailer. Just very like very fast, very rapid, um, faster, more intense, as a certain George Lucas would say. Um, but yeah, and then when Cody and Crosshair are getting attacked by the commando droids, um, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here, trying to see if there's anything else. Um, Trailer music. Um, yeah, no, it just definitely fits that sort of intense vibe of the whole scene. Um, and then uh, and then it gets a little bit more dire when Cody and Crosshair are actually being like choked and whatever by the commando droids. Um, and then I wish that this track also included the bit that happens after, because that is not on the official soundtrack when Crosshair makes the greatest shot in all of Star Wars. Um, that sort of ricochet bouncing all the way up the staircase, hitting the tactical droid. Um, I wish that that part was included in this track because again, it's not really anywhere else. Um, it's kind of a little bit there in So Much for Peace in the beginning, but that's really just when he shoots Tawny and it does his synthetic boom again. Um, it does. It's there's a, it's I can't even really. It's kind of like it's pretty much just a continuation of the Commando bit, just less fast, I guess. Um, where there's a little bit more of the. I can't even think of what it is. Um, but I'm just imagining like there's something playing when Cody is like, "How far?" and then Crosshair's like, "As far as you can," and there's like something playing there. It's like kind of ramping up when Crosshair does the synthetic boom. Yeah, right. Um, but yeah, and then like when he throws the puck, and there's that little drop there where it's sort of you can cut the tension with the knife type of quietness there. And then Crosshair takes the shot, and it does he does the headshot and the tactical droid, and it plays his boom. I wish that that part was included, but oh well. Um, Crosshair's got a mic that does a boom whenever he walks. Yeah, right. That's just what his thing is at this point. Um, but yeah, so with just droidicas and commandos, I really love what it does. I think I'll put it in A. I might put it. I think I'll put it above search and retrieval. Um, if I was also including that section um, where Crosshair makes that shot, it'd probably be about the same spot. I think right before assaulting the city, maybe, or maybe he'd be above. I'm not sure. I'd have to actually listen to that part of the episode again just to see. Um, but it's definitely right around this area for right now. Um, all right, So Much for Peace. I love So Much for Peace. It's such a depressing track. Um, I think right out the gate, I just want to mention before I forget, in regards to Crosshair's theme, the first season, basically until Return Camino, I played the first tune. You're right. You're right. Exactly. And that I think that was sort of what I was alluding to when in with season one, when all the way up until then, it really just there's really hardly anything of Crosshair's theme with besides the synthetic booms and just a little bit there with that we hear in was it Hauser's Sacrifice. We hear a little bit there. um I think we hear a little bit in the, I can't think of what track it belongs to, or even if it's in the official soundtrack. When Crosshair's in episode one, when he's in the room, when he's getting his inhibitor chip effect amplified, I think it does a little bit there. Um, but yeah, I heard in Replacements. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Um, yeah, I can't think of what track that would have been a part of either. Maybe in the first Elite Squad, maybe. Um, but anyway, yeah. So much for Peace. Yeah, immediately starting out with the crosshair boom, that iconic crosshair boom. Um, after he makes his makes Cody's choice for him basically when he shoots Tawny Ames. Um, I remember seeing someone do an edit of that scene where it goes from Cody and it pans over to Crosshair, and instead of the crosshair boom, it does like the vine boom sound effect. And it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life because that's pretty much what it was in that point where it just does just that boom sound. So yeah, it just fits so well with that. Um, I don't think there was any other point. Maybe when Crosshair shoots ESO1, I may be putting the Vine Boom in there, but that was like the perfect spot for it, as you see with the thumbnail there, um, or with the picture there. But yeah, and then it just goes into just the saddest thing you'd ever hear. Like I'll just mention it right now. I love the sort of just intense, just all over the place strings that are being played. Like it, and it's a section of the track that comes back later in Mayday, when Crosshair and Mayday are walking through the snowy tundra. It's just that like rapid, just all over the place. So many clips on YouTube and crosshair shoots or crosshair kills. Yeah, right. I mean, why wouldn't there be? Um, yeah, he's great. Oh my gosh. um, but yeah, it's just as the stormtroopers are coming in and Cody's looking around and he's seeing all the replacements coming in, and again, it's just that like just insanity on the strings or whatever instrument that may be that they're playing there. Um, it just feels very like it almost feels it's kind of what they do with the synthetic sounds, just on strings for that time. Um, with like a track like I guess with Crosshair in season one, right? It kind of does that similar thing. It's just with strings this time. Um, but yeah. What was it? What was I thinking here? Um, yeah. And also lots of ambient sounds as well going on in the background as this stuff is happening. You've got the crazy intense strings going on there just all over the place. Um, there's some synthetic sort of like I don't know if glitchy is the right way to describe it. Um, but it almost just sounds like nails on a chalkboard, but it's not, right? Like it's an actual track that it conveys the proper emotions, but just in terms of what the characters sort of feel internally at this point, it does just feel like nails on a chalkboard. Um, with those sort of glitchy, synthetic, or like screechy, maybe like screeching sort of sounds, maybe. Um, but yeah, so much for Peace is really solid. I think it really hits every note that it needs to for Cody's feelings in this situation, for Crosshair's lack of feelings in this situation. Um, it's just magnificently painful, right? That screeching is echoed in the outpost as well. Yeah, that was what I mean. Is or no, I said Mayday. Yeah, outposts. Yes, right. Where Crosshair, where they're going to the planet and then they land, and then yeah, there's that sort of screeching. If that is the right word to use for it, because yeah, before I was just thinking like glitchy or staticky, sort of sounds. But yeah, I think screeching might be the better way to put it. Um, but yeah, I think so much for Peace is fantastic. I think it just the insane again the strings just going in all which directions, all kinds of notes playing. Um, it's probably right around here. I think. Um, hmm. I want to put it above search and retrieval, but I feel like that might. I don't know. I'll do that for right now. We'll just keep the solitary clone tracks together and Kuadesics. It makes a little T. Um, Fairly certain it's violins playing harmonics, but it could be synthetic sounds too. Yeah, it feels like it's violins going, um, especially in that sequence where it's just all over the place. Hi, and welcome in. Glad you could make it. Um, Sorry, violins. Those words probably mean nothing. No. I'm glad that there's a perspective in here that actually has the right terminology. Right. That's the I think the best part is when I have no idea what I'm talking about. You know, where there's lots of verbiage that I'll probably misrepresent or anything like that. I'm glad that there's something there to there's some knowledge there. Um, but yeah, no. So much for Peace. Just so fits so well with the situation that it's in. And yeah. Okay, Need More Speed. Goodness gracious, is this a track? And in a very good way. Um it felt so experimental in the best way, right? Knowledge, bunch of words, yeah. No, I mean that's better than nothing, right? Um but yeah, Need More Speed is amazing. There was an interview that the Kiners did last year. Oh, I can't remember who they did it with. Um, but there's an interview that they did where they were talking about just season 2 in general. And they were talking about this track and they had a lot of like free reign on what they could do with it. Um, and they just went with all these just random directions like where I think Dina was saying like you have your John Williams, right? You have your usual like orchestral sounds and all kinds of instruments that you use for these tracks. Um, But then for a track like Need More Speed, they just tried so many different things and it all just works so well. I bet they did. Yeah. It felt, yeah, again, like this isn't really anything that you hear anywhere else in this track. They get kind of little different instruments all spread out here and there. Um, but this one, yeah, I love when composers blend traditional orchestra with techno music. Yeah, right. Like it was so techno. That's a great word to describe it. Such a great techno track. Um, yeah, just I remember I remember Sean was like he made a face when they were talking about Need More Speed. He just made like a rock on type face. Um, but yeah, Need More Speed is absolutely amazing. And again, for being sort of an experimental type of track with again that sort of techno style blended in with a little bit more of the orchestral as it would go on. And then especially at the end after Tech completes the race. Um yeah, just an absolutely incredible piece. And I feel like I forget every time I listen to it that it's not just the first like third of the track or first like quarter of the track that has that like techno bit. It pretty much continues all the way up until just about the end until Tech wins. Um, but yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I love how, again, as it goes on, and then when you get closer and closer to the end, the orchestral starts to come back in. When it's a bit more of a desperate situation, they have when they have dude, I can't think of his name, guy up front, and they have the guy in the back that's got the claw thing going on and the buzzsaw. Um, it's a bit more on the orchestral side, more like Tech, yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. You had to go with a techno style for Tech. Um, but yeah, so then brings it back, dials it back a little bit more for the orchestral when it's in that tense situation. Tech wins, just a release of joy and satisfaction in winning. And I love how whatever theme it is that plays. I don't know if it's an actual theme, like if it's a different version of like what Tech's theme would be in the Sacrifice. Um, but sort of that just grandiose sort of success type of track that or type of section that plays after Tech wins and everyone's chanting his name. Um, it's such a heartwarming part of the track and definitely I think my favorite bit of it. Um, it's always such a great moment to go back to in that episode as well. Once he wins, it's just such a sweet moment. I don't think Sacrifice is necessarily a theme for Tech until season 3. Yeah, I think that's very fair. Um, because yeah, it's definitely once he gets brought up more is when the Sacrifice starts to come in. So yeah, it probably wasn't even decided until this point that this would be more of a Tech theme than anything. Um, but yeah, so just for like an average like success type of track, it's really a nice episode to watch. I agree. I feel like it might be one that people aren't a fan of because you go from the solitary clone to this one, which is fair. Um, for one that just pushes the boundaries in every which way for the solitary clone to go back to what's or essentially a side quest episode, I don't really care. It's a great time. Um, yeah, very good, very good track to fit a very solid episode, I think. Um, but yeah, Need More Speed. I really like. It's really tempting to put this in S just for how incredible it is that they just went so experimental with it. I was disappointed at first when you put the whole season 2 story together. This episode was worth it. Yeah, it does so much for adding Tech's sort of connection to the rest of the squad and sort of branching Tech out to an individual instead of just being like the computer guy. It gives Tech a lot more than just that. Yeah, I love how analytical he is of everything, and he's figuring out what Rye racing is. And then he puts himself in those shoes to be the racer to replace Teo. I love it all. Um, I think this goes right above Droidicas and Commandos for me. Um, People simultaneously cried about Tech's death while also complaining about these filler episodes. Like, yeah, exactly. Can't have your cake and eat it too. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, yeah, would we care? I mean, I'm sure that to an extent we might care as much, but getting a tech-centric episode adds so much to that. Because then it's like once Tech, once Tech dies in that episode, and it's like, oh man, I wish we had more Tech. Well, we have an episode like Faster. Um, So yeah, really, really enjoy Need More Speed. I think yeah, definitely very high up on the A tier. It might even be above Assaulting the City. I'll just do whoops. I'll just do that for right now. Um, yeah, it wouldn't have meant nearly as much. Yeah, right, because we don't have that level of connection with tech, knowing, understanding what kind of person he is. Even though we get a lot of that with a track like We're a Family in that episode. Still having those like side things with tech to really sort of flesh out his character in a few different directions is really good. Um, okay, Heart of the Mountain. This is one that I was waiting to talk about. So I was not expecting because every net, if I'm like playing a game or whatever, I'll just have a random mix playlist going on YouTube, and sometimes Heart of the Mountain ends up in there, and it never really clicks with me, or it never clicked with me until listening to it for this stream yesterday. How unbelievable this track is. It does a lot. This is the track that I was saying before, where it does a lot of the things that Crab's Attack does, where it's another like kind of a side quest, right? It's a mission. It's just a random adventure type thing. I mean, it's not even a job for Sid. It's just a fun little adventure that the team go on to find the heart of the mountain. This does so many things that it has no right doing. Like it just feels so over the top in Grant in the best way. I don't mean over the top in a bad way at all. It is so like just expressive and just all over the place. I love it's kind of like that big like monster type feel once the giant mech breaks out of the mountain and starts roaming around. It kind of does a similar thing that Monster Challenge does, where it's got like those like intense like moments that occasionally come in. I don't know what instruments being used there. Combine this with Align the Symbols, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I think Heart of the Mountain or no, my bad. I was going to say that Heart of the Mountain was the longest. I think Imperial Shipyard is actually the longest track. But Heart of the Mountain is definitely one of the longest. Um, 11 Stars uses choir and chorus. Yeah, right? Like, yeah, we get plenty of those as time would go on, especially sort of in this area. Um, in this area. But yeah, Heart of the Mountain, what was something that I had written here? I wanted to pay attention to this with my notes. Um, Yeah, right. So yeah, what the track starts out with that, a little more of the mystery side of things, sort of a theme of the whole episode, like with Align the Symbols, right? There's that aura of mystery going on. Um, and then yeah, once the giant monster thing, the beast, the Zepho looking thing gets activated, it feels sort of like that monster challenge type thing when Wrecker is fighting Moochie. It has those sort of grand instruments being used there, sort of like horns there being used to an extent. Just less upbeat as Monster Challenge was. It just sounds like something you'd hear in like a Godzilla movie, right? Like a big like kaiju type like monster film where the monster's just stomping around. That's exactly what this is. Um, um, and then yeah, when the creature shows back up and attacks them, just very like sort of adding on to that is just another layer of desperation in this situation. Then when Fee, I think I didn't go back and watch the scene. I probably should have for this segment, but I think it's when Fee is in trouble and she's about to fall. Um, and Hunter grabs her. It just displays this incredible piece where it sort of inter what was the word I was just trying, like interweaves, like yeah, interweaves like the Batches theme in with it. Um, After I think it was when Hunter like grabs her, I think is when it sort of brings in the Batches theme a little bit. And you can never go wrong when you weave in the Batches theme or weave in like Rampart's theme or whatever with anything. Um, but yeah, it just feels so grand and just so above and beyond what this situation is. I mean, I get it, it's a giant mech monster that's stomping around and the Marauder's about to be destroyed and all that. But this just extends so much beyond that, like Crab's Attack does. Um, Yeah. And then at the end when they plug the Heart of the Mountain back in, and the thing falls down, and it's sort of this like, it just feels very like John Williams there at the end when there's like I don't even know, it's like the shoot, oh, what was I just thinking there? Um it's like after the Death Star blows up, and man, dang it. I can't think of the thing that it was. Where I listened to all of them on YouTube. Um, I actually made I made a playlist because I don't think anyone else had, where it's every track of the Bad Batch in order, um, at least as much in order as possible. I was thinking about actually making it a public playlist because I totally forgot to do that, just in case anyone else wanted to listen to all the tracks in order, all 230 of them. Um, but yeah, so I go in and I listen to every track individually on YouTube through that playlist. Um, but I know that on the Kiners channel, or I think just Kevin Kiner's channel topic thing, I think it has all of the volumes on there. So yeah, that's a great way as well to listen to it. Um, but yeah, so it's dang it, I can't even think of what instruments are being used in this situation. But I try on Spotify, but they mix them all. Yeah, yeah. I remember. I think back when I was trying to listen to like the Clone Wars soundtrack, um, on Spotify, but it was just sort of all over the place. Um, but yeah, it's that thing where, yeah, where the Death Star blows up, and it's kind of this like quiet, like bits and pieces type of instrument being used there. Maybe it's strings or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, it does that once the thing collapses and crashes into the ground. Um, but then, yeah, and then it's a bit more on the adventurous side once they leave, and I think the track is about over by the time they actually exit the thing. But but yeah, great mix of the Batches theme as well. Like I said, with their um, and then yeah, then the adventure sort of wraps up with it. Soundtracks for season 1 and 2 were not in order. Yeah, I remember that. I think that was probably why I made the playlist in the first place, was because things were just so out of order. But yeah, season 3, it seems like they figured that out. Um, but yeah, it's really tempting for me to put Heart of the Mountain in S. I think if I do, it'll be probably towards maybe the bottom of S as time goes on. But yeah, I think I'm putting it in S right now. Just the grandness of it all. It just feels so grandiose. I love it. I love Heart of the Mountain. It's such an underrated track, I feel like, for an episode that, I mean, when you go through the episodes and you see an episode like, for example, The Summit, right? Like The Summit has so many good tracks in there consistently. And then you look at, I mean, Heart of the Mountain does too, but it's like an episode that might fall through the cracks in terms of the, purpose of it, when in comparison to another episode, again, like The Summit. So yeah, Heart of the Mountain just, I think, stands above the rest. Uh, and then Align the Symbols as well, which I know is not on here, but Align the Symbols I think would definitely be an S as well, just for that homage to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Love that. Um, Trandoshans is really good. I think it kind of does a similar thing. Again, not on the same extent that these two do, but a similar thing with Crab's Attack, where it uses some interesting instruments. Where here it kind of uses some like bongo drums. It kind of sounds like in the beginning with this, um, but with Trandoshans, it has like, it almost sounds like in Return of the Jedi with the Battle of Endor, where there's like the Ewok horns, right? But it's sort of in a more Kashyyyk Wookiee kind of feel, where there's some horns going on occasionally. Almost again, kind of sounds like with season 1 with the Camino stuff. Um, yeah, and then again, just like putting the Batches theme in there, you can never go wrong with that. Um, yeah, and then sort of like weaving in that Kashyyyk feel to it, where it's the drums and it's the horns and it's all these different things that add on to it with the Wookiees. Starts the track with the Batches theme, right? Yeah, um, it is. Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. Right, like at any point, even if you do use the Batches theme in a track in a really successful way, that is just a cheat code. Um, but in this case, just starting right out with it, Yeah, that's they were definitely they were definitely that was doing that with intent. Um, but yeah, great use of a drum beat again, along with the horns going on in the background that sort of weaves in that Wookiee culture. Like I said, again, kind of like with the Ewok thing, doing with the Ewok horns, where it sounds like it could be diegetic, where it's the Wookiees in the background, they're blowing the horns to get into battle, but it's not. It's a part of this track, and it just fits so well. Um, Very tribal. That's the word that I'm looking for. Very tribal sounding, right? With everything that's going on that feels like background sounds. Um, and then when the spiders come in, and it's playing though the those like strings that are just like fear inducing almost. Like I don't even know how to really describe that. It's just horror, right? When they run past the webs and then the spiders come down. Um, it's just like very sporadic and just all over the place strings that again are just so fear inducing that feels like it belongs in like a horror film or something. Um, I mean, Chai on my side, I fear those spiders too. Yeah, right. Like if we didn't have Gunji to sort of make peace with the spiders, then then we'd be in a lot of trouble. Um, but yeah, and then after the spider bit, it goes into the I think the fight sequence with Gunji when he fights the Trandoshan guy. Shoot, Venomore, I think is his name. Um, yeah, where it goes into that, and then there's a bit of Gunji's theme sort of worked into there for a little bit. And then the spiders come back in once Venomore's beaten, and then they start stringing him up and take him up, and it's playing the spider bit. Um, and then it kind of blends in Gunji's theme with that as well. Um, Rocha, we haven't reached the horror territory yet. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. And my oh my. Um, was that a track that you added to this one? Because I think when I looked at it the first time, I didn't see Zillow Beast in there. And then when I went back to it yesterday, I was like, oh, Zillow Beast is here. Great. It was, yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so then sort of another thing that I had noticed when I was listening to that end of the Trandoshan track is when it plays a little bit of the spider, strings going on, and then it weaves in Gunji's theme to sort of combine the two, and it almost gave this sort of like nature is returning to balance type of feel. And now that the Trandoshans have been dealt with, um, and now the Wookiees and the spiders and the trees and everything can sort of be in harmony. So that's sort of the blend of the tracks all coming together for that. I love this track. Um, this is another one that might kind of fall through the cracks because it's not one that I really come back to very often. Um, so I think very underrated in many ways. Again, starting off with the Batches theme, it is a cheat code, but it does it very well how it blends in with the Wookiee tribal sort of feel. Um, I think this is definitely an A. I think this might be right below Droidicas and Commandos, maybe. Yeah, I think for right now we'll just put it right below Droidicas and Commandos. It might go above. I don't know. Droidicas and Commandos does some good stuff. Um, okay. Gunji's theme. Man, this is a very tempting S. I'll put it back down here for right now so we can talk about it. But Gunji's theme is the perfect representation of a Wookiee Jedi who is just alone right now, where it starts out feeling just a very somber, right? It very much feels like sort of Gunji's state right now, where it's him against the world, essentially. Um, and then when they get to Kashyyyk, and then I'm not sure. I think this track actually splices in a bunch of different things. It splices in when they go to Kashyyyk, um, when they get to the ground and they see the burned sort of the burned village, and then the Wookiees come in riding the I can't think of their name right now. The giant monkey elephant ear creatures when they come in riding them. It plays that bit, and I think it plays the end of the end of the episode, um, when Gunji sort of makes a home in that tribe. Um, But anyway, yeah, so I think, yeah, just, yes, very foresty feel. That's a great way to put it. Again, very, like, again, very tribal, sort of fitting for the Wookiee culture. And again, making that sort of relate to Gunji in particular, where it's him and he's isolated and feeling alone and not really having a purpose. And then him being introduced to this Wookiee tribe and them being so welcoming of him. Um, yeah. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I think Gundy's track is just so beautiful, and then weaving in a little bit of a chorus in there as well occasionally, um, which I don't even know if this track needed the chorus, to be honest. Like, it was already fine with the other instruments that they were using, but bringing in the chorus to sort of lay in that sort of um, excuse me, um, angelic choir. Yes, very much so, very much so. Um, Yeah, it didn't even need it. Like, it was already so good. Like how the sun shines through the trees. Yeah, it's, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, talking about the animation side of things, right? Like, they just do these so well. Like, I think when it comes to trees and sort of like sun shining through the trees and stuff like that, there's three episodes in particular that really stand out to me, and it's War Mantle for sure, when Hunter collapses to the ground and then the Scorch and the others arrive to capture him. I just think everything looks so gorgeous there. Um, then there's this episode, and then the summit when they're working their way through the trees right before they get to the sensor that Tech disables. It's just all such a gorgeous cinematics. Um, but anyway, yeah, Gunji's theme absolutely incredible. Does wonders. Does much more than it needs to. I think, man, it might have to go an S. I think, yeah. The jungle and Tantus, yeah, exactly, right. Like, yeah, that was sort of the feeling that I get when I watch War Mantle back. It's like, this looks like it was a like an actual set that they built, which is possible. I don't know if they actually did, because I know that they did for Tales of the Empire with Dathomir. I know that that was semi actually made. Um, but yeah, it really could have been. I'm not sure if it was, but it definitely could have been. Um, but but yeah. Anyway, yeah. Gunji's theme, yeah, probably an S. I think. I could probably maybe bump it down to like top of A maybe, but no, I think S is probably where it belongs. Um, then we have the operative, a very solid use of. I mean, well, this is the first time that we hear the operative track. They should do one of those making of series for the Bad Batch. I absolutely agree. I think that they definitely should. Whether it's just for one season, if it's season three, fine. But for the whole show, that'd be amazing. Um, yeah, the operative. I think it's a very, very good track, especially since it's one that they use so many times again and again for the operatives. Um, and it's honestly kind of surprising how little it changes. I remember listening back to this track and thinking, oh, okay, I can imagine them improving this for CX2 or whoever else, but it doesn't really. It kind of stays the same, and I kind of respect them for that, because the Batch's theme changes from the first four episodes of the show from later on. Um, and I kind of figured that'd maybe be the same thing for the operatives, but it doesn't change, and I respect them sort of sticking to their guns with a track like that. Too bad a lot of the making of is just animators the only way. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, if it was actual like handmade uh, set pieces or environments, I feel like that would definitely come across a lot better, probably. Um, but yeah, no, I really appreciate what the operative does. I think it's one of those tracks where, again, it feels very experimental with the synthetics that they use and the way that they use it. Um, and this track also ties in with the end of the episode, like it is here, with this picture when Rex and Chuchi have the operative captured and they're talking to him, and then he does the electric cyanide pill thing, and then it plays a very like intense sort of mysterious, yeah, very mysterious bit, yeah. Um, yeah, it's just, yeah, very, very fitting of what this is. Star Wars music analyst, an analysis. I don't know, couldn't read that right. Talked about how the operative theme resembled the Terminator theme, which I honestly respect. Yes, that's actually a really great connection. But they specifically use a piano. It's so good. Yeah, right. It's piano motif in the ascending half step. Okay, yeah, yeah. The operative theme became so iconic in season 3. It did, right? Because it fits so much more with, like, this was just the first time and the only time at this point that we'd see an operative in this show was just this one episode in season 2. Um, so I think it being a lot more expanded, even though, again, it's the same track, just in a little bit of a different way. Um, on for this other character with CX2, it's just very, very fitting. The operative theme is like Crosshair Boom, but it's a piano. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, very, very good. Shifty snipers really like their bass drops. They do. They really do. And even with the ones that aren't snipers, when you get CX1 in the beginning of that episode in season 3, Infiltration, right, where it plays his bit where he's sneaking around in the tunnel system and all that. Like, it's that very, it just fits so well with these characters. Um, yeah. Oh man. I don't know where I want to put this one. And then also, like, again, like I was saying, where it has the bit with Rex and Chuchi, and then the dude, he unalives himself, and then it goes to the credits, um, where it's so much more faster and just so intense, and it honestly doesn't really feel like it belongs in a credit sequence. Um, where it's just so, like, fast paced and rapid, almost kind of like what it does at the end when Omega gets captured by CX2. And after the ship jumps to hyperspace and it just keeps going. That's kind of what this track does as well. Also, with it being an operative. The "Why Do I Hear Boss Music" theme of Star Wars, or of the Bad Batch, yes, right. I mean, probably of Star Wars too, but of the Bad Batch, absolutely. Yeah, it is definitely once they get to that point when the operatives start becoming a little more frequent. Yeah, absolutely. Um, but yeah, I really like the operative theme. Part of me wants to put it in B, but I think again it's that more like experimental thing that you just have to commend. Um, you just gotta put it in a place. I kind of want to put it around So Much for Peace, because it kind of does a similar thing, just with different instruments, where it's this sort of well, with So Much for Peace, it has, those intense, like, strings all over the place, but with the operative, against those synthetics along with the piano, it just does so many great things that are so unique, for this show and just for Star Wars in general. They're saying it's for little kids, but people unaliving themselves right there. So, yeah, right. Or this dude, this clone, just does that. Yeah. Um, Also, if you listen close, there's a string motif that quietly does this repeating two notes. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to go back and just listen to the operative theme, because I feel like whenever I listen to it, it's just sort of on, like, the bass level, um, where it does the operative bit with those sort of synthetic parts to it. Um, but yeah, it's quiet now, but when Hemlock unlocks the CX2 operatives in the season 3 finale, it comes in full swing. Yeah, okay, yeah. Like when Scorch comes in and he's, talking to Hemlock, and Hemlock's telling him to send out the shuttles. Um, and then he's like, "I'm counting on it, do it." And then it starts playing the operative theme. Um, but anyway, yeah, operative, very, very solid. I think definitely around here in the A tier, I think is a good place for it. Um, Imperial Shipyard is the longest track of the show. Does that hurt it? Maybe. I don't know. um, I'll admit it was, I wouldn't say a slog to listen through it, but there were bits and pieces of it where it's just more of that, like, downtime where, again, it's the characters are talking. Um, I think the infiltration side of things is really good. Um, what else was there in that? Let's see. Yeah, it's a track that just, it covers so much ground, but, like, I think it's early on. Um, I think it's when Rex, when is it? Again, it's another scene that I probably should have just rewatched. Um, it plays a little bit of the clone theme, just a little bit. or it's sort of like in a very subdued kind of way where the clone theme subtly comes in. I think it might be when Rex is talking to Echo when they're underneath the hatch, maybe. Um, but yeah, no, it's just sort of the you're not run of the mill. Well, yeah, fairly generic infiltration theme. Yeah, it does what it needs to do, right? Like, there are some cool things here and there. Again, using the batches theme, um, using the clone theme. Um, oh goodness, I hear something going on out there. Sounds like a car revving up or something. Anyway, um, hopefully that's not too loud on this. I can probably lower my audio if it's a problem. Um, but anyway, yeah. So it's using all these different themes in a fun way. But again, yeah, when it comes to an actual infiltration thing, it's just kind of the opera savvy. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. um, but yeah, no, I think it's fine. I like how it sort of ebbs and flows with the infiltration itself, with you know when they infiltrate the Venator and things like I don't know. When you look at tracks like these that I've been talking about, where they go so above and beyond what they need to do, where crabs attack, Heart of the Mountain, they are so grand for missions like those that don't really deserve that level of dedication to those tracks. And then Imperial Shipyard for a mission that is so much bigger than that, where they're infiltrating a Venator. Sure, the Venator is kind of understaffed because it's undergoing different upgrades or whatever, being refitted. I think it kind of just feels not stale, but it's just an infiltration track. But yeah, I think it does it well. I think it does it very well. It fits the scene very, very well. But it doesn't. There's nothing really here that pushes it really beyond any of these ones. I don't think. I'll probably put it right above Kuadesix, maybe, or maybe even above Container Ship, or I'll just sort of leave it right about there. Um, but yeah, no, I think Imperial Shipyard is solid. I like it. Um, Definitely a very long listen for the 6 minutes and 20 seconds or however much it is. Um, Whatever. Oh no! Glad you made it back though. Glad you made it back. Oh goodness. Um, yeah, Imperial Shipyard. I think again, solid track. Doesn't really do anything to push the boundaries. It's fine. It's infiltration. Emperor's Play. Very very good. Um, I'm a sucker for Rampart's theme. So when that's in the beginning, how it's kind of being woven into the proceedings there in the Senate chamber, that's always great. I love Rampart's theme. Um, and then when they get the data and they give it to Senator Chuchi in the Senate hearing to present, and I love just there's this constant tension going on where it's this sort of consistent, ongoing sort of. I think it's like some string is being played there, where it just sort of holds the whole time. Where again, there's a big sort of tension there, where even once they play the footage, like it kind of ramps up just a little bit, but it still kind of holds the whole time, where it doesn't really sound like a victory at all. Um, it's just sort of like watching with bated breath, thinking, did we win? Like as the footage is playing of the Venator shooting Topoka City. Um, yeah, there's those levels of eager anticipation, I guess you could say, and then it immediately drops down when the Emperor comes out, and again more of that chorus going on in the background that's doing his theme at the start. The chorus is singing the Emperor's theme, and then the instruments start to come in to take it from there, playing the Emperor's theme, and then the chorus is still there in the background, sort of carrying it along, not doing the Emperor's theme anymore, but sort of having the background. Um, yeah, just very very good stuff, and yeah, just it sort of holds that whole time because obviously the Emperor is talking, so it has to hold that whole time. Um, but yeah, love the use of the Emperor's theme. Um, what else is there? Let me think. Oh goodness, all kinds of work going on next door. Sorry again if any of those sounds come through on my mic. Very very sorry about that. There's lots of work going on in the next building over. But anyway, yeah. So the Emperor he ushers in the Imperial Stormtrooper, and I love just that sort of that just defeat sort of thing. And don't worry, we can't. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Glad that's not really coming through. Um, but anyway, yeah. So I love this again. Very gets super orchestral at the end there when the Imperial Stormtrooper um, feels very very grand to cap off that scene. Um, so yeah, I really like Emperor's play. Again, using his theme, Rampart's theme in the beginning, that sort of bated breath feel of it. Um, I think I'll probably put it above. I might like Music Bangs Along with Masamiya's staff. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that when he Ora, when he does this thing. Um, yeah, yeah. No, it fits so well with the situation. I think I'll put it above Search and Retrieval, maybe below So Much for Peace. Um, I feel like there are just a few things I like more with this track. How again it's those strings that are just so all over the place and just so like so not incoherent but like just so sporadic. um but again, the Emperor's theme is always a great one, so that's definitely something that would just keep it out of B. But yeah, no, very very good. Oh boy, where I fit. Goodness gracious. This is an S tier. And it is the top of S tier. And it will stay there for probably a little bit. um, yeah, what is there to say about where I fit that hasn't been said already? Like, the beginning part is so great, where it's sort of, there's sort of we're not necessarily licking our wounds because there weren't really wounds to attend to for the batches side of things, but just this wasn't a win, right? Um, Gotta go watch more later. Thank you so much for stopping in. I hope you enjoy the rest once you come back to it. Thank you so much. Um, but yeah, it's just yeah, it very very much feels like a loss for the batch here for all the clones in general, as sort of the context is. Um, but yeah, then them sort of Hunter and Tech and them giving their parting words to Echo, and there's just sort of like a what's going on here? Um, and then Echo revealing that he's gonna stay behind, and it drops down into just the violin, I believe that's probably going at this point. Um, where it's just sad. I don't even know like how really to describe it better than that. Where it's just sad. Um, yeah, it just holds a very somber tone, right? That's probably the word I was looking for the clone bit, where it doesn't really feel like a win, but yeah, somber, very much a somber tone, and then a little bit, I believe, of piano in there as well. Um, Great sort of slow militaristic drum beat going on in the background as well when Echo's sort of explaining the situation, and then goes back to I think it goes back to a piano, right? Or maybe it goes to a violin. I can't exactly remember. But when Omega is sort of, almost pleading with Echo, and then she goes to hug him, and then it plays her theme as it comes in. Oh my goodness. Um, and then I think it does. It jumps to piano when Omega gives her goodbye to Echo, and she runs in for the hug. And then I think it was about a little bit over halfway through the track, where all the feels, they just hit like a semi truck, right? Where it's all these things are all just happening all at one time. All these this rush of emotions are all happening at one time. Where it's Omega's theme is playing, and then it brings in the Batch's theme, and then it brings in the clone theme, and they're all being played in different tones on different instruments. I think maybe the Batch's theme and the clone theme are being played on strings, and Omega's on the piano. Maybe I could be wrong about that. Um, But it's like all these things are all just interweaving together, and it's done so flawlessly. Um, and then it gets a little bit quieter when it does the Batches theme. Uh, and then what else was it? Dang, this is one of those situations where I could really, oh my gosh, YouTube copyright, why? Um, okay, yeah. So the clone theme, the Batches theme, Omega's theme, all come in unison on the strings, and then it goes to the piano keys with the clone theme, and then the strings are going on with the Batches theme, then Omega's. Um, yeah, just a absolutely flawless track. Um, and yeah, just the way that it rounds out is nothing short of spectacular. I already put it. I was thinking, all right, where is it? Yeah, no, I already put it up there. No doubt about it. It's an S tier. It's like the first and only time we hear the clone theme on strings and the xylophone. Xylophone's also a great shout. Um, yeah, right. Because yeah, it's always something where it's much more like with like the drums or whatever it may be, right? Like that's sort of where you hear the clone theme um, at its highest, right? During the Clone War, that's where you'd hear it at its peak. But here, where it's in this situation, absolutely, it's a absolute gut wrench of a theme, and yeah, very very emotional with that sequence, that shot of Omega in a room holding on to Lula, just yeah, absolutely heartbreaking. A bugle and trumpet, yeah, yeah, yeah. Where I fit, undoubtedly an S. Very much so. It's the first time I felt so sad, yeah, and rightfully so, right? Because that's the situation. Like, yes, Echo didn't die. Nothing bad happened to Echo. It's just he's no longer there anymore, and it's for a purpose. Um, yeah, yeah. Very very fitting for this track. Very very fitting just for this situation, and yeah, definitely yes. And then we go to, yeah, the next piece of place is 2's Jukebox. Yeah, right. What a great spot to have that, because that was because yeah, this was episode 8, so it was like the halfway point of the season. Um, so that would have been where volume 1 ended, and so putting 2's Jukebox there, it's like why would you put it there? Just put it where it belongs in episode 1 or wherever it goes. Um, but yeah, where I fit, there we go. Canyon Landing, another great use of instruments that you don't really hear much in this show. Lots of acoustics being used here. Um, sort of doing the Batches theme in that way. Very, again, more of a somber tone as well. So we're continuing that trend from where I fit. Just very somber. Listen to it constantly. I don't blame you. This is so good. I remember hearing it the first time watching the episode and just thinking, wow, this is incredible. And it's one of those situations where, like, you look at tracks like Coup at Desix or Assaulting the City, where they just fit the environment, or even Gunji and Trandoshans, right? They just fit the environment so well, where it's here, where it's the sort of tribal feel. Here is the sort of like isolated kind of feel, and even claustrophobic in some ways. Um, but Canyon Landing being in this sort of desert terrain, um, the classical guitar and where I fit. It's the first music you hear after the episode in Spanish, is Spanish guitar. Wow, really? Um, yeah, that's I feel like I'll have to actually go back and listen to where I fit, because I almost feel like I don't hear the classical guitar in there. Um, I'll definitely keep an ear out next time I listen to it. But yeah, going to from that to Canyon Landing is a great a great change of pace, I guess you could say. Um, yeah, absolutely amazing track. And then yeah, doing the Batches theme in that way, again, it's a cheat code. Using the Batches theme, and especially the Batches theme in such a unique way. It is a cheat code in every sense of the word, but it's a a well deserved cheat code. It's definitely an A tier, no doubt about it. Canyon Landing it might even be S. I don't know, because it constantly goes. There's no like filler or anything in the track, right? Um, it just keeps going with the Batches theme. Um, hmm. I think maybe even a little bit of Omega's in there as well. I can't think right now if it is, but um, But yeah, no dialogue, it's all music. Yeah, right? Yeah, where there's nothing here to drag it out. They're just walking and they're going to that place, to the mine. That's it. Um yeah, at the very least this is at the top of A, but it could very well be bottom of S, with my thoughts as time goes on here. Um yeah, it's yeah, just having those acoustics in there is just so perfect. Um, yeah, yeah, definitely contemplating putting it at the bottom of S for right now, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, we're a family. Oh goodness gracious, just another gut wrenching track. All these back to back to back, just absolutely gut wrenching. I love how quiet it is as well. It's another thing where it's like the dialogue definitely takes front and center. And it's like, oh my gosh, even if you didn't have this track here playing as Omega and Tech have this heart to heart, like this scene would still be unbelievably good because of what the dialogue is and what it carries. Um, but this track is just absolutely outstanding. Um, and even does even brings Canyon Landing back in right at the end. Um, But yeah, I think there was one bit of the track that I was listening to with We're a Family where it sounded like, again, I know I keep going back to it, but I feel like it was this time really where it felt or it sounded like those the horns, the Camino one from the season finale. I know I guess that's just an instrument that they go back to a lot of times to use, but definitely in this situation. I think it was around the time when he brings up Crosshair's decision and Echo's decision. It kind of plays those horns a little bit in the same sort of frequency that the Camino one was. Um, but yeah, and then sort of weaving in a lot of the ambience as well into it of the cave that they're in. Yeah, just absolutely excellent. Um, and then yeah, by the end of the track, once Omega and Tekka on the same page and they escape the cave, I love that bit where it changes, it shifts gears into that next section. Um, then they get out of the cave. They're in that little town. I think that this track ends with the end of the episode where it starts bringing Canyon Landing back in at the end when the storm is rolling in. Um, so yeah, I feel like this is pretty much right up there with Canyon Landing. It might even be above for me. Um, just because it does the same thing that Canyon Landing does, but bringing in even more of those vibes that that the situation is, the context, and again with the horns that come in as well. I really love that. Um, yeah, very very good stuff. Yeah, I think that I mean they're neck and neck right now. Canyon Landing and We're a Family, definitely just very extremely good tracks. Um, oh boy, then we go to Mako. My goodness, what is there to say about this track that that has been said? Well, nothing. I don't think anything's been said about this track, and maybe that's for the better. Maybe it's for the better. Um, okay, so it's well documented with my episode tier list, with my character tier list, that Retrieval is definitely not my favorite episode of the show. Probably, or well, not even probably not. It is definitely not. It is absolutely not my favorite episode of the show. The trombones and the tubas are good, but does that work in its favor? I don't know, because it might sort of follow that sort of stereotypical side of things. Like if you look at Jabba's theme, right? Like that they did stuff with that felt very unique, but here it just kind of feels like it just doesn't I mean it fits, but there's nothing really here that puts it above anything else, you know? A big boss guy, exactly right. It's just that large individual that's sort of the abusive owner guy of this, you know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the name of the tier is there, right? So I mean, I feel like it has to go there, but is it really above S tier? It might be. It might be. I don't know, but yeah, no, the large guy that's following around a ton too, but it's exactly right. Like that's like the Family Guy thing when Stewie's, I think, is he following Chris? I think, or is he following Peter? I don't know. I can't think. No, I can't remember which one it was, or is he just following a random guy? He might even just be following a random guy. It's been a long time since I've seen that bit. Um, but anyway, yeah. So that's just sort of it, right? It's that sort of stereotypical track for Mako. Doesn't really push any boundaries in any way. I think maybe if they tried something a little more unique with that, maybe it'd be like at a B tier. But realistically, I'd probably put it at a C tier. I mean, no, I think I'd actually put it at probably the bottom of B tier, honestly. Um, Realistically, I think I'd probably put it at the bottom of B. Um, Again, it's not a bad track at all. It fits the situation. It does what it needs to do. But yeah, there's just nothing that really pushes it beyond the boundaries. Saw someone do a 10-minute analysis of Mako's theme. Good for them. Good for them. I'm glad that they did that. Because guarantee that no one else would. That is for sure. Yeah, so yeah. Mako is Mako. Gotta put Mako where Mako is. So yeah, alright, on that note, we go to the Doctor. And goodness gracious, if I didn't love Admiral Rampart's theme, then Hemlock's theme I love even more. And it's not even just because we get it even more than we get Rampart's theme, which obviously is a plus. Because we get Hemlock's theme. Was it 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5? I don't think it's here. It might be here 6, maybe. I don't think it's here or here, but it's here. 8 times maybe. We might get Hemlock's theme 8 times in this in this list. Hemlock's theme is so good. I can't even really describe like so. Obviously, Hemlock. When you look at like the top villains of shows like these, like Bad Batch and Rebels, you have guys like Thrawn, who Thrawn gets his theme with the organ, and it's just so big and so profound. And Hemlock, obviously, Hemlock is not Thrawn, but if people want to make that comparison of him being Thrawn from Wish, like, yes, you can do that. Because he has the strategy and he's got his own theme that's so unbelievably good. But yeah, I make those comparisons in my mind where Hemlock's theme is so much like Thrawn's theme in many ways. It has 2 sections, the opening string section and the xylophone main melody. Yeah, right? Also play with a harp. Yeah. Because I think the string section is incredible. I think the string section is probably my favorite part of it. Because it really just hits that note of that like mad scientist type feel to it. But I love the main melody of it as well. Yeah, the harp sections whenever they come up, I can't remember. Do the harp sections come up in this track in particular, or is it for the later ones in like season 3, or even in this track, maybe in some of these? Yeah, a musical irony, exactly. It's like the angel of death, exactly right. The harp is used in Hemlock's briefing. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was never sure which instruments are used with that because it changes a little bit. But it's in the background when the trombones plays main melody, right? Yeah, because yeah, the trombones, they don't. They're ones that are very much used in these last couple of episodes, or at least in the summit anyway. It changes because where it's the strings and it's the xylophone and it's for that melody, it's very much present here for Metamorphosis, but then yeah, here it's very different. It feels a little more militaristic when he's there at Tarkin's compound. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, the Doctor I think is an outstanding track. However, there might be one thing holding it back, and it's, how do I describe it? It's another splice of 2 themes or 2 sections of an episode. It's the beginning of the episode, or not the beginning with the Zillow Beast, but it's when Hemlock arrives on Tantus. It's that section, and then it's the end of the episode when Lamassu comes to Tantus, when he's brought to Tantus. But there's a section in the middle that I'm not really a fan of, and it's when Omega's theme plays, funny enough. Now, I love Omega's theme. Obviously, from the last tier list, it was very high up in the S tier. But I feel like Omega's theme just does not work for this track. I know it was meant to be like a transitional thing, because that's how it happens in the episode, is it's Omega's theme, and then it transitions right to Tantus. But I almost feel like if you just cut Omega's theme out of that middle section in between those two tracks, it might be better. And again, that's not anything against Omega's theme, because Omega's theme is amazing. But for a track that is called The Doctor, for the individual that it's for Dr. Hemlock, it doesn't really fit really well. Didn't hear that personally yourself? Yeah, it's there. It's because it's after the batch escaped the planet and they're figuring out about the Zillow Beast. And then there's a close up on Omega where it plays her theme a little bit, and then it transitions to Tantus, and that's where it picks back up with the Hemlock side of things. So yeah, it's kind of that middle piece in between these two, and it's kind of a weird fit. So I feel like I mean, any other day, this would be S tier. But looking at it like this, we're live, pal. We're ranking this. I feel like I might have to take that into account. I might have to put it at the top of A. But any other day, if I was doing this, I wasn't looking as analytically as I am about this, Hemlock's theme would be S, 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 top of S. It wouldn't be above where I fit, but I might have to put it there. The Omega section might hold it back that much. I'm out of my mind. Yeah. Any other day, if I wasn't looking at this the way that I am now, where I'm thinking about things like this, where I think, okay, maybe Omega's theme actually holds this theme back for once ever. Yeah, I think so. I think I have to put it at the top of A, but is literally on the precipice. It is on the line, right? Where you see this line here in between S and A, it is right there where it's the is in S tier and then Doctor is in A tier. That's where we're looking at right now. This is more defective than Crosshair. Yeah. Hello, welcome in. Welcome. Yeah, no, again, like I said, like I've been saying, any other day, Hemlock's theme is here. It's actually above Gunji for me. Realistically, it's probably above Heart of the Mountain as well. But looking into this analytically with Omega's theme in there, nah, I can't do it. Okay. Next up, still in Metamorphosis, we have Zillow Beast. And oh my goodness, like I was saying, you talk about horror tracks. You talk about, just pure fear-inducing strings with Trandoshans. We'll take that and dial it up 10 times, because Zillow Beast is unbelievable. It is so outstanding. That opening bit, when they're in the room and it's just synthetics and whatever instruments are also being used there, but it's just the synthetic sounds going on, the just panic of the situation, kind of again sounds like what was it? Oh, I think I might have wrote it down here. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. So when I was listening to this again, and whenever I listened to it, over the course of the last year after the track had been released, the sounds that are happening in that early going. I don't even know instruments are in this piece. Yeah, it feels like 1,000. Yeah, right. It feels so Dead Space to me. For anyone who's played Dead Space or has encountered Dead Space or anything like that, who knows like the soundtrack of Dead Space, it feels extremely Dead Space in that early beginning, where it's just panic and there's a heartbeat going on at one point right before the Zillow Beast is actually revealed. It's like it's pounding. The heart is just racing, and it's literally in the track. You can't hear the heartbeats of any of the squad members that are in the room, but it's representative of the viewer, of the listener. And then the Zillow comes in, and it's just the synthetic, screeching, glitchy types. I think this is more of like the glitchy side of things. Um, One second. Sorry, I thought I just saw something pop up on the screen. Never mind. Um, okay, yeah, it's just more of that. It's even more so than with Crosshair's theme, right? Because that was just the synthetic booms, right? Um, but this is just glitchy, screechy, synthetic, just white noise. Like not even white noise. It's just like, I mean, I guess it's kind of like white noise, but it's just a more intense white noise. Um, as the Zillow shows up and he's eating that guy. I think that was an arm that he just chomped on there. Um, but yeah, and then once it moves beyond that bit with the synthetic, the screeching, the glitchiness of it all, um, then it kind of, and even also another thing that I forgot to mention was there was a bit of like a like vocals, like a little bit like a chorus going on in the background a little bit as well. Um, Kind of along with the heartbeat and the whooshing and all the sounds that are going on. Um, but yeah, it definitely just sounds like something again like out of Dead Space or like a horror film, like a ghost type film maybe. Um, but yeah, rapid beating, just horror horror personified is with this. Um, and then once things start moving along in the episode or in the scene, um, it sort of brings it back down just a little bit. It kind of gets back to the sort of orchestral side, whereas the strings that are going on, when the Zilla like actually like he like jumps Wrecker and then takes off down the hallway. Then it sort of it dials it back a little bit, right? Excuse me. Dials it back a little bit. Kind of gets it kind of allows us to sort of process all the sounds that we were just hearing there. Um, and then it carries on where with the episode then Tech, he sees the Zillow, fascinating. And then the Zillow is freed, it's loose in the woods, and then it brings it back a little bit where it's tense situation with the strings going on in the background, very very subdued, very quiet. um and then it's when Wrecker and Hunter and the Marauder, they're going after the Zillow, and it's sort of just another part of the score. That's not anything against it. It's just sort of, it's your usual sort of track that you'd hear there. But that opening bit, those first, 2 or so minutes that was on, listening to it right now and you're just exactly on time. Great. That's awesome. I love when that happens. Um, but yeah, Zillow Beast is outstanding. Yeah, again, just fear inducing in every which way. The sounds that they use here, just the incredible, again, the synthetics, the glitching, the static, whatever it is. Um, it's unbelievable. It's definitely very high up. I think it's kind of right around here with Need More Speed. Um, where yeah, it just does so much more than it needs to. Not to the point where it's like the entire track is just something absolutely unbelievable like these are. Um, but definitely in those early sections, again, the synthetics, all that stuff. But then once it gets about the halfway point, maybe onward, is sort of when it kind of dials it back. Um, Dials it back to sort of the usual suspects when it comes to the soundtrack. Um, yeah, Zillow Beast, absolutely amazing. Love Zillow Beast. Um, but yeah, okay, Outpost. I love Outpost. It's so great. um, it's such a I don't even okay, so I'll just start off with the early bits, right? Where it's very somber tone of the situation, playing Crosshair's theme sort of slowly, right? I know there's a better way to say that, but it's more like spaced out in a sense. Um, I think it's being played on like on some keys of sort, right? It's kind of like on a piano a little bit. Um, Crosshair's theme on piano is amazing. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's so good. Um, so yeah, so then it starts out. Yeah, you're at the Coruscant, the Inspectorate, and then clones are being forced into retirement. I love how it just hones in on Crosshair with his theme. It's not like I mean, obviously it's a Crosshair episode, but honing in on him with his theme being the sort of the solitary clone, right? It just fits so well with him. Um, and then I love the bit. when they board the shuttle and it takes off. I love the change that happens there because again, it's kind of like that Crosshair thing where a mission's a mission, where it feels like another mission, and it almost feels like something that like John Williams would have done. Honestly, that's sort of the vibe that I get from it when the shuttle takes off. It almost kind of sounds like in Revenge of the Sith. Um, it sounds like a track that you'd hear in Revenge of the Sith, maybe like when Anakin goes somewhere, when Obi-Wan leaves for Utapau or something. It kind of just sounds like that. It just sounds like, all right, let's go. Here we go. We're on a mission. Um, yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and very fitting when it starts when Crosshair like flicks the toothpick and then gets on. Um, so I was really like these big orchestra transitions between scenes. Yeah, and this was exactly that, right? You go from the piano Crosshair theme, and then there's this with this sort of orchestra transition bit, and then you get to the actual arrival to the outpost. Happens in the Vault and Identity Crisis too. I'm really excited to go back and listen to those tracks as well for next time. I'm eager to see how those sort of transitions are set as well. Um, but yeah, I love the when they're going to the outpost and there's sort of that again. There's sort of that a little more. I think of the piano, right? It plays a little bit more of that. Plays it keeps going with Crosshair's theme. Um, but there's something about it that actually carries out throughout the episode, and definitely in the Outpost and also in the Good Soldier, where it's like filtered in a way. There's some sort of layer over it that kind of makes it a little less clear. Um, I wish I could figure out what exactly it was to properly describe it, but there's some. It feels like there's a layer over over these two tracks as the shuttle's landing and they're leaving the shuttle, um, and then of course the oh so famous crosshair booms are happening as well, like when you see the ice vulture the first time over Crosshair's head, and it's does the iconic boom, um, and yeah, then they enter into the outpost, and there's a moment of silence there in the episode, but in the track it just cuts immediately to Mayday's introduction, which is great. I always interpret it as the howling, or as the musical equivalent of the howling wind of the outpost. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Um, yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Because yeah, when I was listening, I was like, okay, it sounds a little less like clear, as if yeah, there's some like ambience going on to sort of overtake it a little bit. Um, so yeah, no, that's all extremely good, and again, just very fitting. It's kind of something that happens in one of the other tracks. What is it? Um, oh, it's the track in the Solitary Clone when Cody has his talk with Crosshair. Um, Debriefed. I think that's the name of the track. The beginning of that track sounds very much like sounds that are just happening. It kind of sounds like a howling wind type sound, like you said. Um, but yeah, no. Outpost is absolutely incredible. Absolutely, definitely an A tier for sure. Um, dang, yeah, I think I can probably put it above Zillow Beasts. Maybe I think like probably right around Canyon Landing and We're a Family. Maybe. I'll put it right below Canyon Landing. I think. Um, yeah. Um, okay, that's the Outpost. Rating the Bass. I will say this. Rating the Bass is one of the tracks that I have listened to probably the most out of the soundtrack. I love coming back to Rating the Bass. If only just for that opening bit, but I'll let bias affect me if it's not like objectively an A or whatever. I'm putting it in S. And I think I'm putting it above Heart of the Mountain. Rating the Bass is such a good track. Again, that opening bit where it's just more like crazy synthetic sounds in that beginning piece. Again, I don't even know what instruments are being used in that beginning part. When Crosshair and Mayday are like stealthily taking out like quietly taking out the raiders, and then they move in and then they start engaging the raiders. I have no clue what's being used there, but whatever it is, it does everything for me. It is so good. I love how just all over the place it is. by the time, things are getting pretty dire and more and more raiders are coming out. Um, Either, yeah, Kiner is definitely breaking the mold. So yeah, they all are, right? Like, yeah, all three of the Kiners who work on the show and everyone else who's contributed to the show, David Glenn Russell, whoever, like they add so much to this show with all these experiments that they're trying. Like you can just tell with some of these tracks, Zillow Beast, Need More Speed, Raiding the Base, where is it? So Much for Peace. They are experimenting so much with these, and it's paying off in tenfold. Um, yeah, I think Raiding the Base is absolutely stellar. Um, Again, that opening bit where where they're fighting the raiders, and then things just start ramping up. More and more of them are coming out of the mountain, and things are just so dire. And then Crosshair shoots the thing, and then the explosion happened, the mine, and then the explosion happens, and then it comes to a stop. That I love that section of the track. But then it goes into the heartbreak where they find the gear and they find that clone trooper or sorry stormtrooper gear. Um, yeah, and then yeah, just a moment of sadness for Mayday and kind of for Crosshair as well, where Mayday sort of bears his heart with that, with what the clones had done, and it was pretty much all for nothing. Um, and then the avalanche comes through, and it gets right back into the into the urgency of the situation. It doesn't have the same whatever they used for that opening bit, but it just again more of that urgency with more of your usual suspects when it comes to the instruments being used. Um, when they're running away from the avalanche and Mayday pushing Crosshair out of the way, and I love how it ends as well with the when the snow settles, and just a phenomenal ending to the track. Yeah, Raiding the Base, absolutely an S tier for me. Yeah, this is unbelievably good. And then we have Mayday. And wouldn't you know it, Mayday is also an S tier. And it is, man, part of me wants to put it above Crab's Attack, but I'll put it right below for right now. Um, yeah, just bringing in Mayday's theme in the beginning, obviously very well named after Mayday. Having his theme in there, having Crosshair's theme in there in the beginning as well, in a very so not heroic kind of way, but we're getting there with that with Crosshair. Um, and then him carrying Mayday throughout the snowy tundra, playing a little bit of So Much for Peace with those intense strings that are going on. That march back to the outpost while this track swells. Yeah, it really obviously with it being a snow planet, there's obviously a lot of weight to that with how much how much snow planets play a role in characters going through life changing journeys. Um, but there's a section of it, or not even a section of it, when the choir hits the second repeat. Yeah, oh my gosh, it's so good. Um, it kind of reminds me. Oh, what am I thinking of? Am I thinking of the 2003 Clone Wars? Maybe I might be kind of thinking of that a little bit when Anakin goes off on his journey. Um, and it literally feels like for Crosshair, it's a trial by fire, but it's not fire, it's snow. So it's a trial by snow that Crosshair is going through to come out on the other end a different person. Um, yeah, just hitting his synthetic booms in there as well occasionally, having the violin strings going crazy that you hear in So Much for Peace when the stormtroopers are on Desix. Pretty much reusing that track just in a different light. And again, yeah, when the choir hits in as they're going through, it's yeah, unbelievable. I saw an episode where the two Crosshair centric episodes have very deliberate color palettes. Yeah, Desix, yellow, orange, red. Yeah, right. Yeah, Outpost, blue and white. Yeah, yeah, because very fitting for Crosshair. Yeah, right. Trial by fire and ice. Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah, because the outpost, or no, sorry, solitary clone is where Crosshair's fracturing begins, and then when you get to the outpost, that's just where it all crumbles, where his perception of the Empire just crumbles. So yeah, very very fitting that, and that's where he makes the turn to the light side. Very good. Um, yeah, very good. Hey Dominic, welcome in. Blade Runner 2049 vibes, absolutely. Very Blade Runner again, with more of those synthetics, with that journey that he goes on. Yeah, absolutely. I've been meaning to rewatch Blade Runner. I've been needing to do that. Um, but anyway, yeah. So what else was there? Um, I wrote down so much for the notes for this. Um, yeah. So so once they get to that point in the trek back to the outpost, and then they huddle up, and then excuse me, and then the snow clears, or then it goes back to day. Um, there's this sort of like ambient sound that starts playing, and it kind of sounds like, again, like the wind sort of rushing through, and also kind of like shuttles. It kind of sounds like a repulsor lift type sound in that beginning bit. Um, and then it comes back to the track as sort of a tragic version of Crosshair and Mayday's theme, sort of combined a little bit when they reach the outpost. Um, and I love how spaced out it becomes at that point, where it's like you hear like the intense like strings come in every now and again, where it's like um not like shaky, but it's like, it comes in pretty intense, and then it'll go away for a few seconds, and then it'll come back um once they reach the tarmac, and then they like drop to the ground. um and then it pretty much carries on for that until Nolan starts talking down to Crosshair, and it plays more of his theme as well, which just a great way to bring that back in, with Crosshair sort of begging and pleading for Nolan to help Mayday. Um, and yeah, just it comes back as well when Mayday dies, and then it plays that same bit that I played at the beginning when Crosshair got Mayday out of the snow. Um, yeah, just incredible. And then Crosshair, he's looking around, he's seeing all the different things, and it's playing again, keeps going with his theme. His Fine Boom gets one more strike before he shoots him. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, very fitting as well. And something very interesting about this track is once it builds up to the point where he's on his feet and he calls for Nolan, at that point in the track, or at that point in the episode, it just goes to silence. Um, but in this track, there's a cut a cut thing that happens there, right? Um, when he shoots Nolan, it's just a giant explosion of Crosshair synthetic boom stuff going on, right? But that doesn't happen in the episode, which is really interesting. It's just silence when he shoots Nolan. Um, but in this track, it feels very fitting, because it would be kind of weird if it just built all that up to silence, um, for the track in particular. Um, but yeah, and then after he shoots Nolan, like, yeah, I love going back and listening to that explosion again, because you don't hear it anywhere else except in just the track. Um, I was thinking maybe if one day I did a Crosshair stop motion when he was still in the Empire, I was thinking maybe I'd bring in that little bit just because it's never used. But anyway, um, yeah. So once he shoots Nolan, then he drops to his knees, and then it comes back to Crosshair's theme with the choir sort of coming in, the that chorus coming in a little bit there. Um, and then yeah, just doing Crosshair's theme again in just such a heartbreaking way, and then he falls unconscious. Um, yeah, Mayday is absolutely an unbelievable track. Just so well done. Very deserving of S tier, I think, no doubt about it. I mean, realistically, I could probably put it above Crab's Attack, but that track just means a lot to me. So great victory for Crosshair. Yeah. It's the only time I've heard Crosshair's theme play on trumpet. Yeah, I think you might be right, unless it's in season 3. Um, No, because that would have been on strings, right? When they're going back to Tantus, and Crosshair's like saying that he's gonna go in alone. Um, and then Hunter's like, "Don't even think about Plan 99, Crosshair." Maybe there, I can't think of what was used there. Um, but anyway, yeah, definitely a great like small victory for sure. Or his theme on French horn and trombone, yeah, not trumpet. Yeah, that's probably what it was. That was probably what was used in season 3, for that track. Um, but yeah, there we go. And then Good Soldier. I really like Good Soldier. I think again, it continuing the what the Outpost did for the credits, with that sort of, again, that filtered sort of sound that's going on. Um, with like the choir kind of doing his theme as well after he shoots Nolan, it kind of does the chorus type thing there. Um, and also interesting, another Batman connection. I know I made the Arkham connection with Droidekas and Commandos in between the Droideka and Commando side, where it sounded like the level up thing for Arkham Origins. Um, but for the good soldier, when Crosshair wakes up and Emery's there and she's, like injecting him with whatever, it kind of reminds me of another Arkham track where it's in Arkham City. Um, it's the menu theme for the Riddler challenges. And I think just the Riddler theme in general in the Arkham stuff, in Arkham City. It sounds like the Riddler sort of track in a way. It's very like, again, more like kind of like synthetic a little bit. I'm trying to picture it right now. I'm trying to hear it and not without hearing it. But anyway, yeah. I really appreciate when episodes keep the mood for the credits and not spoil it. The Bad Batch's credits theme, yeah, right? Because it would be kind of just strange. There might have been like one episode in the show that had that, where it's like, okay, this might have been a little out of place. But for Crosshair's episode to get that, especially for the journey that he went through, very, very fitting. Um, Confined, yes, I think that's right. Yeah, yeah, that sort of like kind of broke the not broke the immersion because it was the end of the episode, but yeah, I probably could have used like maybe a somber version of Omega's theme, maybe. Um, Please, Chris, yeah. um, I like the Good Soldier. I think I'll put it in B. I think it does pretty much exactly what it needs to do. It sort of has that level of mystery to it where there's sort of like, okay, what's going on? We know we've seen this girl before. We know we're in Tantus, but what's Crosshair doing here? And then, yeah, then it pretty much doing a reprisal of the Outpost and the end of Mayday a little bit. I think that's really good. I think it fits. So, yeah, I think B works out for it. Um, Pabu, my goodness, there's a lot of ground to cover with Pabu. It goes in so many different directions, and it's all very good directions. Um, just absolutely peaceful, beautiful. I love the use of Omega's theme and the Batch's theme as well in there. Just in again such a different light. Where with the Batch's theme, it's more the drums going on, very militaristic sort of sense, along with the different instruments that come in. But here it's just very lighter tone. Um, Very, very peaceful for sure. Um, and yeah, I love how it's it's such a not such a departure, but it's very different for Omega's theme when it plays, because this is very much like an Omega theme, just sort of reimagined, but also weaving in some of the like a Pabu theme in there as well. But for when the Omega bits come in, and there's quite a few times when it does. Excuse me. There's like how First Time in Space and Omega's theme from season 1 feels very much like a brand new adventure and like sort of fresh eyes on this, on this galaxy that she's never seen before. But here it feels very much like a peaceful, like almost kind of like what Crab's Attack does in the beginning. Um, well, when you first see Omega in the for the first time in season 2, but it's even more like a like just sort of unbelievable state of things that Pabu is, right? Um, yeah, it does so many good things for the Batch, for Omega's theme. Love Pabu, and then also sort of interweaving its own theme in there. Um, yeah, Pabu is amazing. I got to put it up here. Uh, Man, probably about there, maybe right above Zillow Beast. I think that sounds about right. One second, just want to check something here. Okay, that looks good. Okay, just want to check that. Okay. Then we have Tsunami. Man, Tsunami's really good. I think it's again, it's one of those things where it doesn't really do anything to really break the mold, I don't think, very much. So I will go ahead and I'll put it at the top of B. But I really like how it just feels like a natural disaster type track. It's not like something where you'd hear with Like, for a tsunami, right? As devastating as that is, but it doesn't give off the same vibes that where is it? Heart of the Mountain does when the giant mech starts acting. It plays like the monster music. It doesn't really do that. It does its own thing. Um, it does it very well. What did I write here? I know I wrote something here. Um, yeah, it feels obviously it feels like a very urgent pace just because again it's a natural disaster that's coming, so there has to be some level of urgency there in that track. But I love when the batch are are helping out with them with the evacuation. It just feels like a very like organized desperation. This is a sound effect that the composers use that sounds like an anvil clang. I think I remember hearing that. um, Associated with hoisting the anchors. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. And especially with that, like I can't remember when exactly this track would cut in to the episode, but with the situation of Omega and Leanna on the boat, they're or well, I probably by this point they're the water is receded and they're on the ground. Um, but yeah, very very fitting. Yeah, like you said, very water feeling track. Absolutely. Um, yeah, really, really like Tsunami. I think it's good. I think it perfectly fits the scene that it does, or the scene that it's for. Um, Random geology fact. Okay, I'll just 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and drink some water, and then I'll get back to the ranking. It's actually safer to be in the open water slash deep sea than trying to reach the shore. Omega Woman's safer sailing further into the ocean. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, I couldn't even begin to imagine how that would have gone. Obviously, I feel like it would have been a risk because they're so like new to it, and with the earthquakes that happened there, like they don't know. Like I know that Shep said it's like, oh, we haven't had one in however many generations or whatever he said. Um, but maybe that uncertainty is why they were like doing that. Yeah, right. I mean, tech might be, but you never know. um, but yeah, okay. Then we have Recover the Prisoners. And this is amazing. I love this track. Um, oh man, it's really good and just immediately setting in the just the ambush sort of thing that's going on, right? It almost is like a jump scare whenever I listen to the track or whenever I have like the playlist going and I'm not really expecting Recover the Prisoners to come up and it just starts like there's no real warning to it or anything. It just leaps right in, which is a very fitting situation for the episode. Um, yeah, very intense on the strings and very intense on the probably I think what is it like a xylophone that plays there, I think. Um, it sounds like a prequel soundtrack. Yeah, it does. It really does. It sounds like something you'd hear in like either like well any of the prequels obviously, but probably more in like Invasion of Naboo. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say like either like Phantom Menace or maybe Revenge of the Sith sort of levels around there. Um, but I'm trying to think where it's like dun 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 dun. It's kind of like almost kind of like xylophone sounding to me. Maybe that could be what that is. I'm not sure. Obviously, like I've said in the last stream, I'm not really great at identifying what exact instruments are being used, so I'll kind of use like vague terminology. But anyway, yeah. Um, yeah, love the immediate setting in of urgency in that situation. Marimbas, is that how you say that? Marim marimbas. Yeah, think right. Yeah, maybe. Um, but but yeah, I just and then there's kind of like a shift that happens as well once they latch onto the Gazanti. Because when it's the attack, when they're attacking the Gozanti at first, it feels very like again like expressive and it's like outgoing, and then once they latch onto the ship, it's a type of xylophone that's basically constantly used in Star Wars. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. It just feels very much like that, right? It feels again like kind of like a Williams thing that you'd hear in the prequels. Um, hmm, excuse me. Um, yeah. So like I said, so when they're on the outside, right, and they're fighting the Gozanti, and they're disabling all the different functions of it, and then once they latch on, there's a shift there, and obviously it has to shift because now the battle has changed, but it feels a lot tighter in the sense that they're on the ship now. They're in these tight corridors and they're having to fight these stormtroopers. So yeah, I love how that shifts. It doesn't maintain the same thing as if the ship was attacking the Gozanti. It definitely feels like an infiltration now at that point, um, like a close quarters combat type infiltration that it is. Um, and yeah, I love the bit when it's Fireball. I love when Fireball is when he goes and rescues Hauser, and it kind of gives this little triumphant little bit there. Um, I didn't go back. I was thinking about it, but I didn't go back and listen because when Fireball goes and rescues Hauser, and he's, good to see you, Captain. And they gives him the rifle. I I want to believe. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna gaslight myself into thinking this, that it's actually a different rendition of Hauser's sacrifice when he's out there. Because I felt like it was weird that it was that sort of like tone that they used for that. It felt like a lot more of a triumphant version when Hauser goes out and he's speaking to the clones, and it has that sort of like that that flowy melody that goes on. Um, I guess I assume it's on like the violin or something. Um, Not gonna lie, I didn't hear it at all. Yeah, yeah. Like whenever I hear that bit, yeah, no, I gotta for Hauser. Um, but yeah, there's like, it just felt like maybe there was something there, like there was a reason that that particular part of the track was used. Um, so yeah, it felt like a maybe like a little bit more of a sped up version, and again a little more heroic in a sense, a little more victorious. Um, because yeah, I was thinking about the Hauser sacrifice after I heard that. I wish I would have gone back and listened to it. Um, but yeah, just gotta give me more of Hauser's Hauser's theme, whatever it may be. Um, yeah, so then Echo and Nemec in the bridge, they're getting the intel. Feels very infiltration again. And then you get the Imperial March. Once the Venator comes out, it's amazing. It's not finished, right? It's missing a few notes there on the end. Um, I love that attention to detail because I feel like sometimes when there's shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where it plays the Imperial March, I think at the end, right? I think it plays the Imperial March at the end when Vader's talking with the Emperor. It plays the Imperial March in full. And it's like, oh man, other shows are doing it differently. Um, the Imperial March not finishing, yeah, right? Like, because yeah, I know that there are some shows that do it and others that don't, that pay attention to that detail, where it's like we're not quite there yet with the original trilogy levels of the Empire dominating the galaxy, right? Like the Imperial Senate's still around, so there's still like some tug of war going on there with who controls what. So yeah, so the Empire is not quite fully formed yet, and this is still the first like year or so of the Empire. So the Imperial March not fully completing, that's very good. Um, yeah, I mean the other time we saw the Imperial March with the Venator was attacking the clones, yeah, right. And that was sort of like the hints of it, right? And even in season one, in the first episode when the Emperor announces the first Galactic Empire, it plays the Imperial March. That's just sort of like more like a fanfare type thing where it's like, okay, now we're the Empire. So it makes sense to give that. Um, but then, yeah. So then going back to this, where again it cuts off right before it's able to be fully realized. That's all incredible. Um, yeah, recover the prisoners. Definitely deserving of A. Excuse me. Yeah, definitely deserving of A. I think I'll put it above. Ooh, it might be top of A. I think it might be top of A or right below the Doctor. Hmm. I'll put it right above the Doctor for now. Maybe I'll put it right below the Doctor because technically the Doctor is S tier. So yeah, we'll do that. Um, okay. Also in the same episode and Tipping Point, we have Crosshair Send Signal. Very very good track as well. Does everything it needs to do. It might end up in B, but I'm not sure. I think it might actually end up in A. Um, yeah, I really like how it kind of starts out with or wait, no, that was something. That was a different track, maybe, right? Um, that might have been a different track that I was thinking of in the beginning. Um, yeah, no, I wait, hang on a second. Let me go back to my notes here because I totally just messed up my thinking process with a different track. Um, yeah, no, yeah. So when Crosshair's in the room, right when he's in the interrogation room or wherever he's in, he's strapped up to the table. Um, I love when like there's sort of that almost like helpless feel that he's in. You know, he's in this situation where he's pretty much he's being interrogated. But then once he grabs the blaster, it's just super like off the wall. And they stuns Emery, and it kind of brings it back down. And then when he moves out, we get a little bit more of the great tracks that we hear in the Outpost, with a little bit of the Crosshair choir type thing as he's walking. Um, and then what was it? There was another track that was in there. I think we get a little bit of the synthetic booms in there, maybe just a little bit. Um, I think they're like a little bit faster as he's walking down the hallway, and then it does that like dun 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 dun, and then like it kind of goes on. Love that bit of the track. That's definitely a big favorite of mine. Um, yeah, then it plays Crosshair's theme in that sort of again the Outpost sort of way. Um, and then yeah, him reaching the terminal, sending out the distress call, definitely just going all in on Crosshair's theme on the strings, I think. Um, yeah, and then it gets shut down, and then Hemlock comes in and releases his fear toxin type stuff. Um, I kind of wish it did a little bit of Hemlock's theme in there. It just kind of felt like at the end, once the toxin gets released, it just sort of feels like uh, not generic, but it's just sort of like there. Um, I kind of wish that there was a little bit of maybe Hemlock in there, or maybe a little bit like the Tantus theme in there or something. Um, but no, I really like this theme. I think I'll put it right above Search and Retrieval. I think it does a really good job. But it's that one part in particular that I always really hone in on, is that bit with tying the Outpost back into this, because that's right where we left off with Crosshair previously. Um, yeah, very very good, very good. Okay, then next up we have Flying Lessons. Flying Lessons is outstanding. I know we've talked about it before on the stream. I think it was during the episodes uh, tier ranking. But yeah, Flying Lessons is just such a joy to listen to. Um, yeah, just that joyous nature of it when Omega's flying around, and I love how those three notes that play when it in this thumbnail, in fact, or in the picture, in fact. Whoops, on the wrong thing. When it goes from Tech, who's like white knuckling on the seat, and then it goes to Omega, and it does those three notes. I love that because it almost sounds like, again, like a horror film type thing, like a Jason Voorhees or like Michael Myers or whatever, where it's like dun dun dun, where it's like it's in a very lighthearted sense, but in the sense, or in the context of this situation where it's Omega flying the ship and Tech is like, again, he's like fearing for his life. I think that just works so well. It just adds. It's such a charming thing. Exactly. Yeah. It's very playful. Um, but yeah. No. They're amazing notes to have. But I love that, like the pan, right? You're on Tech, who's again fearing for his life, and then you go to Omega, who's got this big smile on her face, and she's like, kind of like uh jolly, driving. Um, like a puppy yelping or something. Yeah, it does. It actually does. Yeah, it sounds a lot like that. Um, yeah, it is. It's such a great like little pan there that happens. Um, Yeah, and then yeah, more triumph just sort of comes in when Omega actually does the tech turn. It's so good. He's like totally oblivious to the amount of fear tech is in right now. Yeah, exactly. She's just so she's so overjoyed that she's the one that gets to practice her skills flying the Marauder. Um, but yeah, and then yeah, once she hits the tech turn, it's just that big triumphant bit that plays there is so good. Um, yeah, absolutely amazing stuff. And then when Echo comes in the ship, and it kind of gives him a little bit of a nice little section there for Omega to be joyous about his arrival. Um, and then it goes right back to the to the fear of tech and the joy of Omega as it speeds off. And I love how the track rounds out with that. Um, yeah, that's all just super great stuff. I love Flying Lessons. It's so good. Um, yeah, it's definitely either like right around here in S or right around here in A. Hmm. I feel like top's right in the base for you. Yeah, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I think that this is just such an outstanding track. I think for me, I think it'll be right. I don't know, like Heart of the Mountain really impressed me with going back and listening to it, like specifically just to kind of dissect it. Um, so yeah, I was really blown away by this. So I think right now it'll be right about there. Definitely still an S tier track, no doubt. Just everything that happens, the context of the scene, it all does so much for it. It didn't need those three notes, right? Like it didn't need that, but it did it, and it really added to the scene. Um, yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I love this track. It's very good. Another one that's just such a joy to come back and listen to. Um, yeah, Flying Lessons, absolutely amazing. All right, the Summit. Oh, I love the Summit. Summit's very good. I love the beginning. How it's wait, was it this one? I think it was this one, right? I think it was the Summit. Yes, it was. Yeah. So I love how it sort of begins in like an optimistic way, with Tech and Fee. Has just sort of like wholesome type of feeling to it when Fee says what she says to Tech, and then they leave. Um, and then I love how it like cuts to Hemlock when he arrives on Ariadu, and I love the version of his theme that plays here. Um, because yeah, what was it? Oh darn, I'm gonna scroll back up in chat here. Which one? Uh, no, what? No, dang it, wasn't Hemlock's briefing. Favorite is the march that kicks in when Hemlock marches in. Exactly. That was actually something that I literally had written in my notes. Is that it really the beat goes along with each of his steps as he enters into the meeting room. Um, yeah, yeah. I love this version of Hemlock's theme because again, like I was saying before, how the Doctor feels very different from the rest of it. Even though the Doctor is pretty much the Hemlock theme that we would always hear from here on out, going into season 3 and whatnot. The Summit feels like such a unique feeling of this. Iriadu theme is introduced. It's this large string ensemble with a descending upper echo, pregio. Ar- I have such a hard time pronouncing that word. I've seen it so many times in my brain. I feel like I always get it, but I have such a hard time pronouncing it. But anyway, yes, I know exactly what you mean. Um, but yeah, no, and it's interesting too because I always have such a, or at first, right? Like when I first watched the episode, um, the Ariadu theme was not really something I picked up on. I just thought it was just a variation of Hemlock's theme. But no, you're absolutely right. It kind of like it's the Ariadu theme, which also coincides with being a Tarkin theme, even though I don't think Tarkin really has a theme, outside of just like the Death Star Imperial theme from A New Hope. Oh my gosh, no, do not apologize. The no gushing over these tracks is what we're here for. Um, Iriada theme plays throughout the entire episode. So good. Yeah, right. Because then it also kind of like once we get, I'll just go ahead and just rank the summit right now because all these coming like in succession of one another is just keeps it flowing. The summit is absolutely A. Um, I think I'll put it right right above Pabu. I think. Um, so yeah, so that's I was just gonna say is getting to infiltration plan is we have a little bit of this Ariadu theme that's coming in, also mixed with Hemlock's theme, and then you have the Batches theme once they like latch on. I think once they latch on to the car as we see here, it plays a little bit of their theme as well in a little bit of a triumphant way, but then it gets right back to it because they're in a very intense mission. Um, yeah, just Infiltration Plan does such a good job of blending all these different tracks together. Favorite track in season 2? That's awesome. Wow, that is some very high praise. Infiltration Plan is extremely good. Um, yeah, I love the opening bit. Actually, let me go back here. See what I yeah, so yeah, pretty much yeah, just picking pretty much right where the summit left off, where it has this similar tone to it. Um, Yeah, because it does like the Hemlock theme, but in like a quicker pace, right? I think it's once they what is it? It might be when they're still in space, maybe, but does the like na 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 like it does it a lot faster, with like the strings going on top of it. Very very good. Um, um, yeah, the little string ascension that results in a massive trombone crash is epic. Yeah, it happens right before the batch theme. Yeah, when the batch theme does play Last Note of Dissonant, it sounds like breaks. Yeah, right? Because it's like things are sort of like crossing over one another at this point, right? Because you have, again, it's the Ariadu theme that's coming in, the Batch's theme is there, Hemlock's theme is there. They're all sort of in conjunction with one another. Um, yeah, and then I love that build up. Um, when Tech is like, we'll need to be precise, and then it cuts, and then they all look at Wrecker, and then there's a little bit of a lighthearted tone to that, but then the lightheartedness just drops right down once they start getting into action, and Tech starts, um, shorting out the sensor. Um, but yeah, very very fitting track for this situation. Um, And then yeah, so yeah, the Batches theme coming in once they all latch onto the car, and then it moves towards the base, and then yeah, so as it's proceeding along, there's just a little bit more of like Hemlock sort of theme in the undertone a little bit. When the trombones play really long 13-note ascension of the Ariadu theme, yes, that's right, yeah, because that's when they get to the platform, and then the stormtroopers are there, and it's very intense situation there when they're shooting the stormtroopers and knocking them off the railings. Um, yeah, extremely good. Extremely good. Infiltration plan is outstanding. Again, it just does everything. It does everything and more. Um, I'm definitely putting it right around here. Best infiltration theme of the show. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I think I'll put it above Heart of the Mountain because yeah, again, like what this track does, how it blends all these different ideas together, uh, all these wires are crossing in a way. Um, because yeah, I love that because it might be a little more prevalent for one of these later tracks, but like kind of like Hemlock is there for his reason to pitch to the summit, and then there's the Ariadu theme, which is kind of like Tarkin's theme as well. That's like interjecting into Hemlock's thing because they're kind of butting heads over the course of this episode and the show. And then the Batches theme is there because they're the reason that they're there. It's all so good. I love how this track just blends everything together. Um, yeah, it does pretty much everything better than a track like where is it? Imperial Shipyard, because that's just your generic infiltration stuff. But this one, blending all the different concepts, it just does it so well. Hemlock's briefing is another outstanding one. This might end up in S. I don't know. um, Another just incredible use of Hemlock's theme, uh, with just some like sort of more militaristic, imperial sounding melody type going on as well. Um, I love how kind of like some of these other tracks do it in Mako tier. Yeah, you're probably right. Speaking of which, kind of like it gets very like bass heavy when Hemlock is sort of describing his plan, right? Like the bass just sort of overtakes a lot of the stuff that's going on here, and then the strings sort of come in a little bit with Hemlock's theme. Um, but yeah, and then it does like the Tantus sort of synthetics, right? That we hear at the end of season one when Nalase is taking a Tantus and just that, those like those synthetic sort of sounds. Um, and then I love again, with this track being called Hemlock's Briefing, obviously it would be very Hemlock centric, but it almost sounds like when I was listening to it, it was like two or three times when Hemlock's theme would be playing like back to back to back, like the main melody, I guess you could say. Um, where it's just pretty much playing like on top of itself like two or three times. It's like when one section ends and then it begins again in a different sense with a different instrument. It's very, very good. Yeah, and then extremely fitting for him. Um, and then yeah, with the Tantus sort of again the Tantus sort of sounds going on in the background. Um, exactly. I was just gonna say that the clone theme. Once Admiral Coburn starts talking about the clones, it's like, should we really dismiss them out of turn? They're cunning warriors, right? And then that's when the clone theme comes in a great way. And then once I think it's when Tarkin starts saying like, I too have said with the clones, and they displayed a whatever a concerning amount of individuality, and then it cuts right back to like the Hemlock Tantus sort of idea. I love how it brings that in because that's really the nature, at least for one of the aspects, is the nature of the summit. Um, but then we have that other purpose with the Rogue One motif when Director Krennic or Commander Krennic, it's so good. The Rogue One theme coming in was so good and coming in such a big way as well. I love that bit. This is absolutely towards top of A, if not S. I think I'll put it at the top of A right now. Um, yeah, great, great touch. And it's another one of those situations where it's like Krennic did not have to be there. Like he was just a fun cameo to have, but then also adding that on top is incredible. Top's Doctor, yeah. Yeah, these two are really just like on the precipice of S, where it's like they could be if on another day. But yeah, I think the use of Hemlock's theme here is definitely one of the best that it's been in this season. Um, Planting the Beacon is good. It's just kind of a good um, intermission track, I guess, between some of the two bigger ones. Like you go from Hemlock's Briefing to like Insurgent's Compromise. That's a pretty good leap. Um, but I like Planting the Beacon. I think it's a good like middle track in between the two. It kind of fits in line with the sort of the typical like infiltration, um, where Omega's sort of she's going to plant the beacon as the as the name of the track is, um, and then sort of that diversion that happens with the V wing. I think this is a B track for sure. Um, the plays when Echo, yeah, screws with the crane. Yeah, it's sort of like it very much ramps up. Yeah, it kind of does like it kind of does a little bit of the Ariadu thing a little bit. Um, excuse me. Yeah, no, I like playing the B. I think it'll go above Tsunami. I think. Yeah, it's such a hilarious move, but the music makes it so much more epic. Exactly right. Like yeah, with the stormtroopers being like, "Huh?" Yeah, it almost like kind of drowns them out a little bit. Um, when the dude's like, "Look out" or whatever. Um, so yeah, it's good. I like playing the beacon. It definitely does exactly what it needs to do for the track. I think it's solid. Um, but then Insurgent's Compromise just like it ramps up instantly. It's so good. Um, yeah, yeah. So something that I was kind of thinking when the crescendo did not need to go as hard as it did, right? Yeah, great way to end the track for sure. So yeah, Insurgents Compromise. I think when I was listening to these again back to back with Playing the Beacon to Insurgents Compromised, this one just felt like a better version of Planting the Beacon. Um, because it kind of hones in on some of those same ideas with again more of the stealth infiltration, but it feels a little more um mysterious, I guess you could say, because Hunter and Tech are trying to figure out what the camera's being offline. Um, and then yeah, then them finding the bomb, and again, it's just very much like a mysterious situation where it's like, okay, what is going on? It very much fits the context. Um, and then I love when Saw Gerrera comes in and reveals himself. It kind of does the what is it? Does it do Hemlock's theme or the Ariadu theme? I'm trying to think. I feel like it does the Ariadu theme when Saw shows up. And then he takes off his helmet and reveals him. It plays Saw theme. Okay. Um yeah, I know. I was trying to think cuz it does like that cuz I know for sure it absolutely plays it in Frantic Escape, right? Like cuz that's when they're getting to the shuttle. And then back in season 1 as well. Um but it does that thing. Oh, I'm trying to think of how it goes now. Dang it. Oh, it was right there. Um it does that like when right before he takes the helmet off, right? It does like the Hemlock little thing where it's the or what is it? Shoot. Oh, dang it, it was right there. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It does that just like a little bit, I think, right before he takes the helmet off. Um, because then I think it does a little bit of his melody right after that. Um, but yeah, there's like that little bit right before where it kind of plays a little bit of the Hemlock thing or the Ariadu. Yeah, it's Ariadu. Yeah, it's the Ariadu motif. Yeah, right before then he takes the helmet off and then it does a little bit of um, Saw's theme, but it's a little bit less recognizable. I feel like it kind of fits in with everything else, just like how they have with the Stormtrooper armor. Um, yeah, so then conversation happens. It's dialogue, so it's a little dialogue ambience going on. But then once they are actually compromised, I love what this track does. Um, Undoubtedly, my favorite bit of the track, one of my favorite like segments of any track. I feel like um, when like the smoke bomb or whatever it was, I can't remember how it happened, but there was like the smoke there, and then yeah, when the stormtrooper comes in and Tech, I think, is the one that bashes the dude's rifle and Hunter uses him as a meat shield to get through. That segment there, yeah, the string segment there was so good. Um, yeah, that's one of my favorite segments of any track in this season. Um, yeah, just an unbelievable segment there. I think that's pretty much where the track comes to an end before it gets to Frantic Escape. Um, yeah, really like what it does with this. Very, very solid. I think this is probably right above, maybe right below the summit. Whoops, not below Babu. Right below the summit, I think. Um, yeah, very, very good use of that section there. And then yeah, bring in the Ariadu motif in there. Yeah, very, very good. Frantic Escape. I like Frantic Escape so much. I think I like it more than some of these. I think I like it right below the Doctor. I feel like maybe, or maybe even right above the Doctor. Uh, I don't know. I'll put it right above the Doctor for right now. I love Frantic Escape. Again, it just does that. It's a Frantic Escape, but I love, yes, the Batches theme right out the gate. It's, yeah, again, it's that cheat code, but it's the cheat code that just is not a problem. Um, I love the use of Saw's theme in that section when him and his group are running for the shuttle. I thought that was probably the best version of his theme that we'll ever get. I don't know what did he have that same theme in like Rebels? I can't remember if he actually had that sort of theme in Rebels or if it's original to Bad Batch. Um, but even if it did, like I feel like that's the best use of the track that you're ever gonna get because it was just so good. It just felt so orchestral. Um, the opening tells you here, yeah, they basically use the first 5 notes of the Batch theme on repeat. Yeah, okay, I'll have to go back and listen to that because I feel like for me, I'm just thinking about like, okay, Batch's theme, Saw's theme, Frantic Escape, you know. So yeah, I'll definitely have to go back and pay attention to that bit. Um, but yeah, love Saw's theme in that situation. Again, the Batch's theme playing is incredible. It is a cheat code. Um, I love the build up, the intense build up there when Saw has the detonator and he detonates all the bombs. Um, that's all outstanding. Very, very good stuff. Um, let's see what. Yeah. Yeah, the build up was great. Yeah, I think yeah with Saw's theme. I remember when I was watching the episode for the first time. Excuse me. When I was watching the episode for the first time, I actually forgot that Saw had his own theme until I went back and rewatched the show again when I got to the first episode, or when I was on the first episode. 'Cause I was like, oh my gosh, this is Saw's theme, just in a much more like expressive way. So yeah, that just really nails it right there. I think for me is that it feels like it could be such a unique track, and it belongs to Saw of all people. So um, this is a piece that really takes over the entire theme. That's when you know it's good. Yeah, right. Like yeah, it just everything just lines up so perfectly for this. Um, this is going to be a problem. I think it's a good, yeah. Never forgive. That's right. We'll forgive this track for being as good as it is, but not the individual. This is going to be a problem. I think is fine. I think it definitely sets in the dire situation that the batch is in. I think it's a great way to end off with those synthetics that sort of follow along with Tarkin and a little bit of Hemlock in there, especially the Ariadu motif in there. Um, I think it's probably about a B. I think it's a good, again, kind of like another good transition track between the episodes, if anything. Um, so yeah, I think I'll put it probably right below Playing the Beacon, or yeah, I think right below Playing the Beacon is fine. Um, yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. Um, then we have Plan 99. Goodness gracious. I feel like the first half is really good, and then or yeah, uses the choir at the beginning to get into the rail car. Yeah, right. Yeah. That was a good move for them to make there for that track. Um, oh yeah, especially with this show, like because in the first season, choir isn't super really apparent, if at all. If I'm trying to think, it might not be. Um, but yeah, with this season, how apparent or how well used choir is, it just works so well. Plan 99, yeah, better than sacrifice. Wow, that's definitely a very solid take to make there. I definitely I don't know if I can put sacrifice below Plan 99, but they are definitely incredibly close to one another. Um, yeah, Plan 99. I love the beginning bit because really it's a better continuation of this is going to be a problem because now like the bats are actually in the fight now. Um, but yeah, I think the second half just really takes off. If anything, like if I was being really critical about this, if I was being like very like harsh on these themes, like I know I was kind of a little bit harsh on the Doctor, but like I'd say that the separation between the second half of Plan 99 and the first half, like there should be a separation there. That like the second half is in S, and then the first half is like in B. But and realistically, that average would put this at A. But I'm not going to do that because yeah, Plan 99 is such a perfectly constructed theme there. Um, it's just those chords when tech drops. Yeah, right. Like it's such a great way to just really set in the situation here. It's just it feels like everything is just falling apart for this scene. So bad, you're bad. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I feel like that second half when it's Tech when he latches the grappling hook or the hook onto the rail car. It's just that section could be separate from the first half and it would be like incredible. But it's all incredible, no doubt about it. Um, yeah, no, Plan 99 definitely put right above Heart of the Mountain for sure. Probably above Infiltration Plan even maybe. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'll put it probably right above Infiltration Plan. Section where he latches on those drops. Yeah, right. Yeah, it like it's such a small like time window between that and like when the trumpet comes in. Yeah. Um, yeah, plays two times the sacrifice theme. Yeah, where it's just like I know that's just what this is at this point. It's just these bad memories that are coming in, and talking so passionately about these bad memories too. Um, but yeah, no, it's just when he latches on, there's that brief, very brief pause, and then it really just hits, just like tech does. Yeah, it just drops immensely, um, and then yeah, then it starts to sort of things start to set in that tech won't be making it, given the situation. And yeah, and I love the desperation because the track amplifies everything in this scene, obviously, but for the case of Hunter in particular, that one line that he has where he's, Wrecker, get him on board, and it's the track just adds so much to his words. Like there's just such desperation in there. um yeah, it's absolutely unbelievably good. And then we have the sacrifice, which is right there, probably. Probably right here, I think. Maybe. Um, Probably just about. Um, it's kind of neck and neck with where I fit for me. Hunter never loses cool. Yeah. Yeah, right? Like, oh my gosh. It's just, yeah, that was that one situation where it's one of his squad mates is in this situation. Yeah. Um, yeah, the sacrifice. What else could it be? But S, if not the Mako tier. Yeah, you're right. Got to put it right there, right below Mako. I think it's got to be right below. Like you can't really usurp Mako like that. Um, but no, yeah, these two tracks are definitely neck and neck. On a given day, I could put where I fit right above. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter with any of these. These are all definitely S. Like just no doubt about it. Um, Yeah, just the sad. What else is there to say? It's just the sad. Um, Sad, 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 sad. It's like every single instrument that the Kiners and whoever else worked on this track. It might have just been the Kiners. I don't know. But every instrument that they got their hands on for this track was all just on fire as this was going on. Like the Batches theme is playing in just such a defeated way. Then like the sacrifice comes back in, and then once the car starts going really fast, and it picks right back up with the sacrifice going up, and then when Hunter engages the Speed Force to reach Omega before the thing crashes, um, Fallout Attack's death was better than the actual drop. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, because it felt so profound as the series went on, right? Um, and as the episode went on, because it's so much more emotional as it goes on, and there's that realization. um yeah, exactly. And that's, yeah, I was just gonna say, when the piano kicks in after the crash, and then she's back up and it's going with the sacrifice theme. um yeah, and then yeah, just her falling unconscious, and then the in the episode the track stops, and it's no music until it gets back to Ord Mantell. Um, yeah, the piano is just so overpowered in this, and just every track that it's used in is just outstanding. Um, but yeah, so the track then cuts, and then it goes back to Ord Mantell when she's having her moment of grief with Hunter, and it's just, yeah, more of just the sad strings going on. Um, yeah, absolutely just gut wrenching. And then it goes to the credits, which is really interesting. I honestly wasn't really expecting that to happen in this track when I listened to it after it got released. It makes sense, obviously, because it's that track. When the first three notes of Omega's theme play, yeah, yeah, absolutely amazing how they just tie those together. It does the Batches theme as well. Um, Again, really just hitting on that like unity of the squad, right? Um, Batch's theme, I think, was on the piano for a little bit for that section of the track in the credits. Um, and then you think it ends off with Omega's theme, and then it comes right back in with the sacrifice a little bit, and then it all comes together with the Batch's theme to really round out the credits. Um, yeah, just absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, this is in top of S for sure, no doubt about it. Um, then we have Standoff, which is great. It uses some little bits and pieces there of the sacrifice, especially when Hemlock brings out Tex goggles. Um, Yeah, I like just the tenseness of the situation. Um, Bringing in a little bit of Hemlock's theme in there as well is always a win. Um, yeah, this is all very very good stuff. I probably put it above the Doctor, maybe. I think I don't know if I would prefer it over Frantic Escape or Hemlock's Briefing. Maybe I'm not sure. Um, yeah, Standoff absolutely deserving of that spot. Um, Exceptionally good track there to really hone in on the on the sadness of it all. Um, then we have Don't Stop Searching, which is an S tier for me. I think I like Don't Stop Searching more than Plan 99 and all these other ones. It's one I very frequently go back to. It very much feels like, much like how this season is just the Empire Strikes Back of the Bad Batch, in this trilogy of a season. This feels like something out of Empire Strikes Back, and how the sequence is very much Empire Strikes Back when Leia and the others are running after Han on the Slave One, and then it takes off. You know, it's very reminiscent of that. Um, yeah, no, I'll just start from the opening bit where I love the continuation of the standoff with Omega, and then it sort of picks up a little bit when Scorch drops in to stun her. Um, when Echo takes over the Walker and causes that diversion, and then it never dies down from there unless once they actually leave Ord Mantell. But like it never stops ramping up as it goes on. Um, yeah, I love the bit where they're running and it almost sounds kind of like the asteroid field a little bit. That was sort of my connection to Empire Strikes Back there. It almost kind of sounds like the asteroid field. That was the connection that I made when I was thinking about it. Um, oh, I wish I could figure out which bit it was because it was when I was listening to it at the time is when I thought of that connection. I wish I could think of it right now. Um, but yeah, very much just got tons of Empire Strikes Back vibes from it. Um, but yeah, just um, what was it? Oh yeah, that's what it was. It was like it was like I think it was that one, right? It was yeah, it was like when they're running after the shuttle. I think is when that bit was going on. Um, but yeah, obviously then once Hemlock gets away and it plays sort of another version where the Batch's theme ties in with it, but it's a little bit more of the sacrifice once the shuttle actually takes off, I believe. Um, when they play the sacrifice game after Hemlock, there's the goggles, yeah, right. Um, yeah, once the shuttle takes off, I think it brings a little bit more of the sacrifice in just such a grand and sad way because another member of the squad has now been lost. Um, and then it goes back to the Batches theme in such a big, again, just a big orchestral way when they're running for the Marauder. Um, yeah, it's just everything. All the instruments are just on fire at this point as the Kiners and everyone involved are just running through them. Um, and then it goes to the piano once they're in space, and yeah, just absolute heartbreaking way to end the track. And then yeah, ending off with the Batches theme, and uh, and yeah. So where did I put it? Don't Stop Searching. Yeah, definitely, absolutely S tier. I think right below Rain the Bass. That's a pretty good place to put it. Honestly, thought the episode was gonna end there. Right? It just felt like it. That feels like that is a satisfying ending with Hunter vowing that they're gonna get her back, and then that would have just been a fine end. But no, then we have the continuation with this, and honestly, this might be the track that ends up at the bottom because I was thinking about it a lot, and it doesn't really do anything for me. Um, it's pretty run of the mill, just Tantus related stuff. It's got the little bit of synthetics in there. Um, the Emery reveal bit with the like ramping up, the strings going is good. Um, but I feel like this track actually, I think I'm gonna put this in C because I actually feel like this could have used a lot more. Um, I feel like it could have used in that section when Hemlock is talking to Nala Se. Um, I kind of wish that his theme was in there a little bit, but it wasn't. It was just more of the like synthetic stuff, which obviously the synthetics are fine because it's used so much in the show. But I wish that Hemlock's theme was a little bit in there when he's talking to Nalase, when he's like, "Make it happen," and if you fail, Omega will suffer the consequences. Um, I wish that his theme was in there, and then when Emery reveals that they're sisters. I wish that alongside the like fast paced like oh revelation type music, I wish they kind of threw in a little bit of Omega's theme in there too. Um, if they like were able to like speed up Omega's theme in some way to match it alongside this like rapid rapid paced music there, or at least a little bit faster paced music there, I kind of feel like that would have landed. Tempted to not add this track at all. Yeah, no, I'm glad you did because I we got to have like you know like a a little bit of everything, right? Even Mako. Um, but yeah, no, I definitely feel like this track. It's not an underwhelming track when you watch the episode, but when you listen to it in isolation, with this being the last track of season two, it really could have used a little bit more to really uh, hone in on these characters that are involved. Because this is all about Omega right now, so having a little bit of Omega's theme in there would have helped. And then again, like I said, with Hemlock's theme in the beginning, when he's talking to Nalase, would have been a great way to add in his theme as well. Even though we get Hemlock's theme so much in the last episode in the summit, it would have actually really benefited to have it here. Um, but yeah, that is season two. I think. Let me think. Are there any other ones that I want to move around here? Let's see. Mako and Mako tier. That's about right. Um, the sacrifice at the top, I think, is just fitting with everything that happens in there. Just the heartbreak it exudes is very fitting. Where I fit is just one of the greatest ever, for sure. Way interchanges between the clone theme, the batches theme, Omega's theme. It's all flawless. Crab's attack is an unbelievable opening, and like I said before, it has no right going as hard as it does, given the context of it. Even though it is like the first scene of the season of this new big season, it just had no right going as hard as it did. Mayday Crosshair's trial by snow is unbelievably good, and even that bit that never made it into the episode with the big explosion boom of Crosshair's synthetic boom, I love it. Um, Rating the bass for me had to make it into the top five. It's definitely just one of my favorite tracks of the show, no doubt. I always come back to this track. It's this one and Crab's Attack, I think, are the top two I always come back to for this season. Um, and maybe even Assaulting the City as well, even though it finds itself down this far. Um, Don't Stop Searching. I mean, come on, Don't Stop Searching. It's the Empire Strikes Back track of this season. Plan 99, obviously, with how dire it is. Infiltration Plan, the way everything just sort of goes in between one another, kind of like what Where I Fit does, just in a more infiltration sense, where it goes from Iriadu, Hemlock, Batch, rinse and repeat. Um, yeah, no, that's all right. I'll put it. Or whoops, I'll put it right there. No, I think that's a fine spot for it. Heart of the Mountain, again, like I said, just blew me away in every which way. I remember hearing it in the episode and thinking like, wow, this is big, but listening to it on its own, especially with this like critical sense or just analytical sense of it that I had yesterday, I was definitely just blown away by Heart of the Mountain. Flying Lessons, what is there to say? It's so charming, such a charming track. Yeah, and just yeah, the three notes, those three notes keep I think put it up here. I think that just adds so much to this track, as good as it already is. And then Gunji, like it's just such a beautiful mix of all these different things, the tribal sense, the Kashyyyk connection to nature, along with Gunji's isolation, this sort of not desperate, but this sort of a somber feel that it has early on, but then it brings things together with the Wookiees and with him being introduced to the tribe. Um, yeah, I think that these all are very much S. I think maybe if anything, might put Hemlock's Briefing up in S, but I feel like I'm pretty okay with it being an A. Um, I'm pretty okay with Hemlock's Briefing being an A. Yeah, even though I really enjoy how like it pretty much plays Hemlock's theme seemingly like three times all at one time or all at once. It's just yeah, no, it's really good. It's awesome. Um, yeah, I think yeah, this all just feels right to me. Yeah, maybe Zillow Beast goes up and S now. No, Zillow Beast is amazing. Just yeah, I think it's just those first like 2 minutes or however much of the track that are just unbelievable, and everything else is pretty good. Um, but yeah, Mako goes in S. Yeah, you might be right. Tempting, tempting, very tempting. I think being right above the sacrifice is pretty fitting for it, right? That's got to be that's got to be a a bragging point or something, bragging rights. Um, but yeah, no, I think that this is solid. I think this is a pretty solid list. I wish I didn't have to put this as the sole track down in C. But this one just doesn't do anything for me. It's a kind of a generic like end of the season track. It could have been a little bit more. But with this being the official like end, the last track that you hear in the season, that's very fitting with the end, the credit side of the sacrifice. Um, yeah, I think these are fair. Down in B, I think for the most part. Maybe I might actually put hmm. Yeah, no, that's okay. I'll leave that as it is. That's fine. Um, all right, well there we have it. That is the season 2 tier list. Once again, ginormous, massive thanks to the one and only Killer B for putting these together. Put together all three seasons for the tier list. What would I rate Mako's Cantina? Is that different from? Is that one's actually called Mako's like Cantina or whatever, right? Because there's another one that's called like the Scorpion Club mix. What was that one? I can't remember what the Scorpion or is that the um is that the one from the beginning of Pabu when they're in a club Laoche? Is that what that is? Because it's that like Scorpion thing or whatever. Pabu open. Okay, I kind of thought so. Um, okay, so yeah, so Mako's Cantina, I'd probably put that in D. And then Scorpion Club, I'd probably put that below Sisters in C. That'd probably be right about where I put those two. Um, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about the jukeboxes. They just don't really sit well with me. There's Racing Mix, Sid's, Mako's, and Scorpion Club. Okay, yeah. Um, I love these radio tracks. Yeah, no. There's actually one mix that I really love, and it's actually in season 3. It's the Space Club mix. I love the Space Club mix. That one's probably definitely my favorite out of all these mixes that they have. Um, but in terms of the diegetic music, like that's definitely a top tier for me for sure. Um, yeah, Space Club I love, and just the visual of Wrecker and Hunter like leaning up against the counter with this music playing with like these vocals going is just yeah, it's a great sight. It really adds to it. Um, but yeah, so that wraps up the season 2 tier list. Obviously, let me know your own rankings as well. These are definitely some of the best Star Wars has to offer when it comes to soundtracks. So obviously, there's going to be a lot of really good tracks that go above and around. Yeah, again, yeah, Killer Beat, thank you so much for putting these together. I'm very looking forward to doing season 3. There's probably going to be well over the amount that we have here in A are probably going to be here in S. That's probably just the reality of it. It's just which goes where in terms of which is in what order. Yeah, season 3 is going to be incredible. I think I know for sure what's going to be the top track of S, or at least the top 2 of S for season 3. But beyond that, it's all up in the air. But I'm definitely looking forward to going back and re-listening to them in prep. And I encourage everyone to do the same. Anyone who's checking out the VOD, if you want to go back and listen to season 3's soundtrack before going to this one, you can go in and see if you go to Killer Bees profile, or if you look up Bad Batch soundtrack in the search bar, it should come up. So yeah, you can go through and listen to all the tracks that are put in here, and decide for yourself. But yeah, all right. Thanks to everyone who stopped by, who's checking this out live or checking out the VODs. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for stopping in. It's always a blast talking about all this stuff. I'm really excited. I'm glad I'm going to be keeping these tier lists going in any way I can. Once I run out of stuff, or I get to stuff that people have already covered ad nauseum, then we'll, move on. But we got a lot to go from there. Next stream will probably be the last of the Bad Batch stuff, because that'll be rounding out the soundtrack. But we'll do other stuff. We'll do Clone Wars. We'll do maybe Rebels. We'll do stuff like that. So yeah, that I'm really excited about. And Tales probably. But yeah. All right, everyone. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. And as always, if you enjoyed, do all the YouTube things. Do the like, do the comment, do the subscribe, do the share, do all that fun stuff. And yeah, next time, keep an eye on the community tab, because I'll let you guys know when I'll be doing the season 3 score. It'll probably be next week, but never know. So yeah, likewise to you. Once again, thank you so much. Have a good one, everybody. And I'll see you next time. Roland Duran will return in season 3.